Smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't see it. Yeah.
Is there something in the way, Hank?
Assuming there's nothing in the way and it remains in your line of sight the entire time.
I've never experienced the sunset, and through that experience the Earth as a sphere floating in space. Those two aren't the same thing.
Yeah, then explain. Show a model of how a sunset happens on flat Earth. You've had 10 years.
Not my claim.
We've shown you, bro. We've shown you heaps of videos before. I've seen them. Yeah, Gio showed you a heap before. You've seen like that guy like on a trolley with a little circle. He puts his camera up against the table surface, and then he pulls it back, and then it gets occluded from the bottom up. You've seen it, mate. I know you've seen it.
Right,
you selectively
forget half the lens, with half the lens beneath. Yeah, half the lens beneath the top of the table. We've seen that.
Yeah, and Jesse Gordon debunked it. Made a great video about it.
Yeah.
It's like you're not.
So what does that have to do with nobody experiencing the Earth as a globe floating in space? Unless they turn on their TV.
The Earth
if you start doing observations like sunsets, how I see ships disappear, bottoms up as I drive home. I coming over a hill about 1.5 kilometers away from me. There's an island about 39 kilometers away. I can see the sea houses as I'm at the top. As I get back home and end up about being 7 to 8 meters above sea level, I can't see them. I can't see the flat tiny islands between us. That makes you wonder why does that happen?
Have you ever thought about the atmosphere?
Yes, and we know normally refraction lifts things up.
According to what?
So when you've observed this thousands of times over the years.
According to what?
According to optics.
There's a difference between shit you can see.
No, I want to hear the answer to why things are reflected up.
Well, normally refraction lifts things upwards.
Explain.
From your perspective.
Explain.
Well, the light tends to go towards denser medium, and the closer you get to the ground, the denser the air is. The light which is reflected off the object that you can see is not pointing directly at you, but slightly upwards, and then it's being bent down by refraction, so you can see it.
I got a
question. So you know that the denser medium would not be the ground if the ground is warmer and more humid.
Temperature plays a part, yes, but it's the density of the medium.
Yeah, right, and that would be less dense if it was warmer, which we observed.
No, but still, would the air close to the surface? Would the air close to the surface have less density than air higher up?
Yep.
And then what happens?
Warmer and more humid, which lowers density.
And what do you see when that happens?
When that happens, you see compression.
Yeah. So it's not the same as a normal day refraction, is it?
You see things get compressed. You see the bottom of things disappear. Yep.
No, you don't.
Yep, you do.
No, it would be done the other way.
What would it look like if it was being refracted?
Then the light would be, if that was the case, then light would be bent upwards, yes? From less dense to more dense.
Upwards, so things would look shorter.
Because light, according to your example, if the density of the air is less close to the surface than higher up, we know that refraction tends to make light bend towards a denser medium, yes?
Which would be bending up, which would make things look shorter.
Nope.
Why?
Bending up would cause
I know, it's a little bit confusing that bending up makes things look shorter. That's just the way.
Lower or shorter?
Okay, so bending, whenever the air is more dense above, whenever it's cooler, which we constantly observe, things will bend towards the more dense medium, meaning it will bend up, making things appear shorter.
Okay, but when you say bending up, it makes it
Bending
shorter.
toward
Do you
the more
mean
dense medium. That's the model that they.
bending up? Does it
Okay.
make it lower, apparently lower, or shorter, compressed, squashed? Is that which one are you saying?
This both.
Which one are you saying though in this argument?
Either one would work. Things look shorter, things look more compressed.
I would agree that it would be lower.
Okay, good. Well, that's what we predict.
Okay.
Based on the atmospheric conditions we measure consistently.
The consistent atmospheric conditions we measure is a typical density gradient where it's more dense at the surface and less dense higher up.
According to what?
According to the measurable density gradient.
Have you measured that? Have you seen it measured?
Yes, they send weather balloons up every day.
What were they measuring? What were they measuring?
They take the pressure, temperature, humidity, and then there are empirically derived formulas that I've told you about 3 times that convert that into a refractive index. And the refractive
So you do know the only thing that would be more dense at the bottom would be pressure, which is negligible.
No, the pressure is the biggest factor.
Oh,
we
really?
had this conversation a few days ago.
Can you cite your source for that statement?
Yes, I gave you the
sources. And I gave you sources saying pressure is not. Temperature and humidity are far more important than pressure, which is negligible.
No, pressure is not negligible.
Yes,
pressure doesn't the gradient of pressure doesn't vary much. The temperature gradient varies, right? And we had this conversation where it needs to be, the temperature gradient needs to be 34 degrees Celsius per kilometer of altitude to overcome the pressure gradient.
That's not true.
Extreme. That is
so
true.
In that case, why would we see things moving up and down throughout the day? Are you saying in those cases only we have a 34-degree temperature gradient because they measured around a 10-degree temperature gradient and still saw things shift up and down throughout the day?
You're very close to the surface.
You're talking about 2 entirely different things. How light reacts and how you can view it. It's completely different than
close to the surface. Yes, you can get extreme temperature gradients which will bend the light upwards.
What is close to the surface?
Hey?
What do you consider close to the surface?
Oh, the closer, the more extreme.
I agree with that, but what is close?
Yeah, 30 meters is a figure I've seen in literature. I put it at 100 meters.
Yeah, they actually measured the mountain around 100 meters high. That was moving up and down throughout the day.
Say that again.
Viewed from where?
Viewed from around 30 miles. I have the link.
I know. From what elevation?
It was also on a mountain.
And it changed by 100 meters?
No, I didn't say it changed, but I said that's the height, elevation that I remember them being at.
Okay. Yeah, post the link. I'll look at that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it to you again. Yeah, there's a lot of sources actually. I have plenty of them because I've been looking into the refraction calculations, and pretty much everyone is going to say that the temperature and humidity are much more important than the pressure, which is negligible, especially with these temperature gradients.
No. Appreciate the difference between a pressure gradient being incredibly stable and not a variable, right? It's not a variable. The temperature and humidity can change a shitload, right? But the pressure gradient is not going to change. It's controlled by gravity and it's just super stable.
And it's super negligible.
It's not negligible.
The gradient is not a variable.
What other calculations that you think would make it like worthwhile?
All right, because you need a 34 degrees Celsius per kilometer.
According to what? Show me that. You're just making up stuff.
Formulas.
Okay, well, I've seen formulas that say it's less than 1 degree Celsius.
Per
foot.
That's a fucking extreme temperature gradient.
No, less than 1 degree. Less than 1 degree Celsius.
Right.
Like 0.006.
Okay, so way less.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
even at those temperatures.
That might be something approaching.
I'm just saying you don't have to have an extreme gradient. Temperature will easily overthrow pressure.
No.
Pressure's negligible, dude. You're gonna have to prove otherwise. I have multiple sources that say you're wrong.
Formulas.
You say that, but where? Send it now. Send it right.
1996.
And the entire paper that goes with it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
because I'm reading here.
I'd like to see.
I was just gonna say I'm reading here. A blast wave creates a rapid spike in air pressure called overpressure, followed by a sharp drop. So
there you go. In the chat.
I'd like to see the calculations Taylor's talking about too.
Yep.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go read any modern refraction paper on how to calculate terrestrial refraction, they'll tell you that you need to measure temperature and humidity. Actually, humidity is the most important if you weren't aware.
that makes sense. Logical.
Temperature is a bigger factor than humidity.
Not according to what I've read.
Well, again, I have the empirically derived formulas for the refractive index
So
that
do
are
I.
used worldwide.
Yeah, I do too. And they are the papers that I've read about terrestrial refraction are saying that the pressure gradient, whenever they actually test it in a controlled environment, is basically negligible. Same for the actual pressure gradient in reality. Very, very small. Not going to cause much refraction. And I already sent you this equation. dN over dH equals 79p over t squared times 0.0342 plus dt over dH. And I sent you a paper for this. It says from this equation, it's apparent that the knowledge for the prevailing vertical temperature profile is all that is required for the determination of the fraction angle for this particular calculation.
Right.
And they were taking pressure into account. And I sent
the pressure is known. The pressure is known.
Please?
What is the pressure gradient then?
It's the change in pressure as you go up.
How much is that?
Oh, it's a logarithmic.
Yeah, where would that be?
Oh, can't you look it up? I don't have the thing on hand. Okay. I can give you a calculator for it. So your formula, how about you plug in some numbers, some like real world sort of numbers, and see what you get.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll send you this mountain one too, where they were at higher elevations and still saw throughout the day and night things consistently shift up and down. Now, if it's because of pressure and pressure is consistent, why would anything move?
Could you post it in the chat, please, so we can have a look?
Wait a minute. Like,
you keep getting confused.
You're just talking about how light moves.
Yep, that's all that's happening.
So what? Right. So what? Like, what are we getting here? The fact that shit moves around to your eyeball? So what?
He's basically asking her, what, do you want a cookie or something?
It's important for him,
right? No, how can we definitively say it's Earth curve whenever we're seeing things consistently move consistently every day and night?
Right, because the default structure of our atmosphere is more dense lower down, less dense higher up. So light bends down.
So things should stay the same, right? There should be a
many other tools
drop there. But
can I get a one-on-one with a lady real fast, gentlemen?
Sure.
Just super fast. Yeah, not even 30 seconds. So I didn't catch your name. It doesn't matter. If you're looking at the 1 foot observation height of the black swan, right, and you can see the bottom.
I'm not looking at that.
I'm just saying hypothetically, if you looked at it and you looked at the bottom of the oil rigs, right, they're saying the light is bending down. If you're 1 foot above the surface, where is it bending down to? And if you go bending down more than 12 inches, then it's going to hit the water and never your eye. So it would appear to be disappearing from the bottom up. So when they say it's bending down, how are they getting that 1 foot observation from 1 foot from 10 miles away?
So two things are wrong about that.
Yeah.
So firstly, you're right that the light traveling straight is going to bend down. You're not going to see it. But the light that's angled upwards from the same point, you are going to see because it's bending down. Secondly, it's none of that means that it's going to disappear bottom up.
Okay, this is a quote right here from peer review paper. Local weather. Hold on.
Could you post it, please?
Yeah, I'm literally working on it now. I'm just grabbing a quote from it too. Local weather has a significant effect on the vertical temperature gradients that are primarily responsible for atmospheric refraction effects.
That's right. Humidity adds tiny water droplets
to,
in the air.
yeah.
And there's many papers that say this, bro. Literally,
Hang on.
everyone I've ever read.
Do temperature and humidity change the index of refraction?
Yes.
So what's the problem?
The problem
we know
is
that.
things
We know that we can test. We can test for it. Yeah, we can do test the different days with different temperatures and different humidities, so that we know and we can check how that changes.
Send me that paper.
And then we can, then we can use that knowledge later on, couldn't we? On those similar conditions.
Does it cause bottom-up obstruction?
It's still 14.7 psi at 1 foot. That's not going to change for 10 miles.
Okay.
So she's saying it's negligible because of that. And you guys are going,
No.
No, listen, I'm saying that what is it? Okay, so the temperature, if it's warmer at the ground, which is what we consistently measure, then things are going to be compressed. Same thing with humidity. Humidity is consistently higher at the ground. That's going to cause a lower density. That's going to cause things to
Not necessarily, no.
Oh, according to what?
Gradient, according to the empirically fucking derived formula.
The temperature gradient what?
If it has to exceed a certain rate of change.
What is that? You
about
just make up
degrees. I literally DM'd it to you. I literally DM'd it to you.
And I'm gonna DM you a counter source. So what are we gonna do to show it?
Right.
Still waiting for that one in the chat. Can you still?
I'll cut and paste.
We'll put that one in the chat you were literally doing, bro. I want to look at it.
Roohif, isn't it dynamic, the gradient, because of the change of air pressure throughout the day, because of the water cycle?
All right. I've just cut and pasted my message to Tayler 2 weeks ago, showing that you need a 30-something degree change in temperature per kilometer to make the light go the other way.
Okay, I cut and paste some that shows otherwise, empirically and demonstratably.
Okay.
Where they actually measured the temperature throughout the day, and they measured the height and elevation.
Okay, but you mentioned a
formula. Can you post it,
before,
please? Can we read it, please? I'd like to read it. Can you post it? Please post it.
It's in the main chat.
Where?
Of the live stream text.
Cool. Is this the one that has the formula in it?
This is the one that showed temperature gradients. I already sent you the one that had the formula, but I'll resend it.
Oh, this is the yeah. All right, cool. They got the wrong mountain anyway.
Yeah, I'll drop a couple other ones.
Yeah. So what I said before about the pressure gradient being very stable means it's not variable. So it's not how else can I say it? It's not a variable in this experiment, right? Because they're saying that the ground level pressure, whether it's 1013 or 990 or whatever, they're saying that ground level pressure does not really have an effect on refraction. And
so it's negligible then. So the gas pressure is negligible.
No, fuck.
It is.
Holy fuck.
You just said that it doesn't vary.
No, they're saying the ground level pressure, right? The ground level pressure, be it 1013 hectopascals or 990, right? That'll change day to day, whether it's low pressure or high pressure. That does not affect the gradient. Oh, hang on. Wifey's dinner's here. Give me 5 minutes. Can you find the formula that it was P over 75? Whatever it is, find it and we'll put some numbers into it back in 5 minutes.
So can we, what's this 39 degrees? Unless someone else wants to go on with something, I got a question.
I don't have no clue. He's literally making that up, I swear.
I think it was
so he's saying like 34, okay. And wouldn't the the temperature of the sky is really low and the ground's about 39 degrees or whatever?
34 he's degrees. Saying that the temperature gradient would have to vary by 34 degrees every kilometer to overcome the
empirically that's not true.
But the image,
what he said.
The image is punching through the atmosphere from a very low temperature down to, and then entering into the lower layers of the Earth and hitting a higher temperature. why does it need to have this 34 degree variation across the surface if the image of the sun is being like up in the sky at that sort of below zero temperature?
In height. I was talking about in height. And when you're looking across the surface, right, you're looking straight toward the horizon, for example, the gradient going up, if it were that different, if it had that rate of change, would overcome the pressure gradient caused by gravity. That was my understanding of what he said.
Pressure gradient caused by gravity? What are you talking about?
The reason we have 14.7 psi at the surface, the reason we have 14.7 psi at the surface and very, very low pressure, I don't know the specific number at the peak of Mount Everest, for example, is due to the weight of the air on the air below it. That's the main reason we have the pressure gradient. It's the main reason it's that stable.
I just read a peer-reviewed paper of a mountain consistently getting taller throughout the day and shorter throughout the night, every day and night.
Yeah, that's not contradictory to anything I just said.
Okay, I just wanted to say that if this is the case, and this is at a high elevation, this is from one mountain to another. And so if it's like some rare event for things to be brought up, then why do we see it consistently move every day? And if it's pressure that's really in charge, just look at the empirical data and ask yourself, why would it be overthrown every day and night?
Yeah, so firstly, it's not a rare event for things to be lifted by refraction. When you watch a sunset, for example, the moment you see the sun touch the ground, it's already set. The amount of standard refraction is, I believe, on the order of like half a degree.
What is standard refraction, by the way? Because everything I've read said we can't calculate standard refraction unless you know the pressure, temperature, and humidity throughout the entire line of sight. And even then, they still have trouble calculating it.
That's right. It's dynamic.
Standard refraction is just
there's no such thing.
That's just a baseless assertion
there
that that's
absolutely
standard
is.
refraction because you guys have a standard model that you want to stick it to. So you just assert that when things look the way that you propose that they should look if you live on a sphere, we'll just call that the standard.
What temperature are they putting in this standard
refraction? More based
model?
on what things typically look like.
Okay, what temperature are they inserting for that? What are they assuming? What conditions? For this
They're
standard
assuming the
refraction?
pressure gradient.
Okay, only
I
pressure.
presume due to
It's easily overthrown by temperature.
I would love to get
for that.
a single sentence before you
did.
interrupt. You didn't. I don't think I got through a single one.
Well, you kind of take pauses, so I think you're finished.
Oh, then by all means, go ahead.
No, I just said I thought you were finished. So I would like you to finish.
So my understanding, and my understanding is going to be rudimentary because I'm not an expert in all this, but my understanding is that there's a standard, mostly pressure. There's a standard temperature included in that standard refraction, but I don't know the specific numbers. The standard pressure is going to be the 14.7 going up. Temperature, I assume, is going to be colder at the bottom, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you have to keep in mind this is a dynamic system that remember, evaporation is actually contributing to the water cycle, and the water cycle and air pressure are tightly linked. They affect one another in dynamic ways.
Would you
the difference in that dynamicity? How dynamic the system is what we're talking about here. Is it dynamic enough to shift things around by like hundreds of kilometers, or is it dynamic enough to shift it by a matter of arc seconds?
Well, okay. So Larry brought up something that was pretty pertinent, right? And part of the claim of the globe is that, well, it's just so large that you can't really detect the curve. And then you take this notion of a globe, you've worked out your averages for your refraction, and then all you have to do is just add a couple little figures here and there, and then you get your globe all of a sudden from your visual sort of measurements, because you've assumed the refraction, and this is where the globe is like sort of nestled in between.
Honestly, I think it's the other way around.
The link that I sent him as a source is the link that Roohif sent me as a source. It's so funny because it
No.
literally says here that temperature will easily overthrow pressure in here.
No,
So
I
what are
sent
you
it back
pointing
to you
to?
so I know where I would find it.
Okay, so
Which is what you
please
said you
tell
had to
me
find
your
it.
source. Where is it?
I've sent you the source in the chat.
There is a quote on here and a picture of a computer program, a screenshot. Where is the link?
Right, I sent the Sidor paper in the chat at 9 minutes past.
Okay.
And tagged you.
You said you were gonna send. Yeah, okay. Let me see.
Anyway, I'm putting your formula in Excel.
Oh, here's just a calculator. Air pressure altitude calculator. Is that it? Or is it this other one?
Just before it. Just before it.
Okay, let's see.
So trying to figure out the whole little debate here that's going on right now. So because atmospheric conditions change the way your eye sees the light, what does that have to do with the size and shape of the
It's
Earth?
the whole crux of the conversation. We used to say that we could see too far, and they would say, no, you can't. And then when we actually started showing them that we can see too far, when we go to check the globe math against reality outside, we can see too far. When they say, well, when that's happening, it's not standard refraction, bro. It's unstandard refraction, and that's why the Earth looks flat, but it is actually curved because of refraction. So their whole argument is on this baseless assertion that the light is bending down at 8 inches per mile squared, the same curvature rate as the Earth, and that's why it looks flat.
That's not the amount.
So it's not
No
8
one says
inches
it's
per mile squared.
Yeah, it appears flat.
Yeah, but
So hold
yeah,
on.
I
So
would just
you don't accept 8 inches per mile squared as an approximation
Of the
for
Earth or the
refraction.
curvature of light?
of
Not of
curvature
refraction.
within 100 miles.
Not for
Curvature, yes,
refraction.
but not of refraction.
Okay, so if it
Where
looks
are the
flat,
hang on a minute. Where are the? Could I ask a
Stefan,
quick question?
no,
Where
Larry.
are the
Larry,
Yeah, I was just.
we're trying to establish something. Sorry, Stefan was trying to establish something first. Larry, are you done, man?
Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was just asking, where are the calculations for what we should see on a flat Earth?
Hold on, but Taylor was also raising a point about what are the factors that are driving this discrepancy. Is it the temperature, right? That's why maybe observations are differ during the night and the day because of the temperature changes. Because evaporation is literally driving the pressure cycle, the water cycle, and temperature
Where in
is
this
doing
paper
that.
does it mention that density overthrows temperature?
All of the stuff that we're talking about literally
so what's
can be
interesting, right,
measured
is
in
like when
that he cited.
when the sun appears in the sky, it looks more like a globe, but then when it goes back down, it starts looking flatter, right?
Yeah.
Do you disagree?
Yep.
I don't see anywhere in here it says that.
Read the DMs where I used the formula.
Because
how could the sun look flatter?
So
the
the paper didn't
refraction-
say that. You're calculating that, right?
Yeah, with the empirically derived formulas from the paper.
Okay, so this
from our
actually
observation.
says that the equations currently commonly used in physics to derive the refractive index from the physical parameters of the atmosphere, primarily the temperature, pressure, humidity, and CO2 content, are those of Eldon. And then
That's
he
right.
goes through to talk about dispersion of standard air and the humidity and whatnot. So I'm just wondering in here, where is your calculation?
Right. This
Which
paper
one are you
is this
using?
dude. Right. This paper is this dude collating a whole bunch of previous lab experiments to work out refractive index and making a slightly more accurate formula. All right. And
Okay,
some other
so now
dude,
you're using the formula to make the assertion that it's 37 degrees
35,
or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that
Which is
what
what I did in the DMs.
Does any paper say that pressure overthrows temperature?
This
I haven't seen one.
This shows
What?
it. The
Where?
formula shows it in the
Which one?
DMs.
No,
I
I'm
sent
on
you
the
a DM
paper
in post.
from the DMs.
Not the
Which
paper,
formula?
the DMs.
Oh, the formula you made?
The formula that someone transcribed the formula from the paper into Python, and that's what I use.
So the paper didn't say that.
No, the paper's not saying that. The paper gives
Okay,
you
good.
the formula.
So you don't have any
out
papers to back up your claim. You just have some screenshot of somebody doing math.
Are you not hearing what he's saying or
Jesus
just not
fucking
listening?
Christ. The formula gives you the refractive index. I've put in values into the formula, realistic, like real world values, to work out refractive indexes.
What is your humidity gradient in your values?
I think I put it to 0 in the example I gave you. Let me check. Yes, I put it to no gradient of humidity in the example. But feel free to play around and show for yourself that humidity is not a big factor.
Mm.
Because I have, and I know that
You put the humidity
is coming from a
gradient at
place where you
0.
know fuck all.
It's hilarious. I can
Is
show
it
you
though?
multiple papers showing that it's not 0. It's very
Well,
easy.
Okay.
Look
so
up
I
average
know.
humidity gradient on the Earth, and you'll easily overthrow what you just said.
No, you don't. Put it into the formula. I have.
You just say
'cause
no,
I
you
know
don't, but you haven't even looked it up.
Yes, I have. I've done it.
Okay,
with
then
the
what is the humidity gradient normally?
It's
This is
highly
basically-
variable, right? But I worked out
Oh.
at one point to overcome pressure, the humidity has to go from 100% at the surface to 0 in the space of around about 20 meters.
You haven't, like... Okay.
I've done this, Taylor. I've done it.
I see what you're saying. I just want you to know that I've already linked things that show that you're wrong.
Well, let's look at your formula and see if it's more dense at the surface and less dense higher up.
Yeah, you can easily find any refraction paper that talks about the importance of humidity, temperature, and pressure. I implore you to look that up. I have given you sources, and I can give you more.
Right, I understand, but what you're not getting is that the pressure gradient doesn't vary. Okay, it's not a variable.
That's not true either.
I'm still trying to work out what the fuck any difference that any of it makes.
That's cool, man.
You're talking about minute changes in the way light bends or is refracted and how you can observe it, which we know the most extreme to the least extreme. It doesn't make a fuck bit of difference one way or the other. You're talking about the most minute shit. It really doesn't fucking matter.
Thanks for your contribution.
Trying to prove a point.
Much appreciated. Yeah, cool.
Which calculation in this paper did you use, Roohif?
We've taken all this shit into account. It doesn't change the size and shape of the Earth because of some shit that you can see or that you can't see.
Hey, Roohif?
Bro.
Yeah.
Which
I'm still waiting
calculation
for
are you
a
using here?
fucking meaningful conversation here.
Right, there's two conversations going on. All right, so another dude transcribed the mathematics in that paper.
There's multiple. Which one did he use? Did he use the density of moist air in its component? Did he use the density of dry air in its components? Which one did he use?
Components into the final formula, which are
which mathematics did he use? How many different equations?
There's one equation. I will give you.
From which? Okay, read out the equation to me.
In the chat.
Can you read it? I'm on the paper right now.
It's 156 lines of code.
Oh. Okay, so do you know the equation?
Oh, fuck.
Did you use dry or moist air conditions?
Both, right? There is a humidity gradient.
He used both. Which equation did you derive it from? Can you read it out to me?
Taylor, I'm trying not to lose my shit here. My apologies. Right?
I need to know. I need to write because there's different parameters for different equations here.
Right.
Taylor, like he's got it in the form of a code. You're not willing, like, I mean, you want a formula. He's got a code. This is just not going to work as far as the request is concerned.
Right. So this guy, Misha Polyansky, who I've posted in the chat, took that paper, took the formulas that Sidor, got from other places to make a more correct one, and put that formula into code. And that's what I'm using.
That's okay. And I sent you peer-reviewed papers.
Okay.
Not some guy on a formula on a code. Okay.
Okay. But your papers,
I just want you to check them out.
Keep saying that temperature is bigger than humidity. The reason they say that is because the temperature can vary. The pressure gradient hardly varies at all.
It's negligible compared to temperature.
It's not negligible.
Prove it.
With the fucking formulas.
With a formula that you don't even know. You can't even read
This
it out
is an
to me, bro.
empirically derived formula.
Which one? Which one?
The Sidor paper is fuck.
Okay, there's multiple formulas in here for multiple
Oh.
parameters. Which ones did he use? Which parameters?
All of them combine to make the formula at the end.
These are all for different conditions.
It's a composite. It's a composite formula. Okay, this is what, yeah. So it's an interesting idea, but like you do recognize what Taylor's issue with it is, right?
No.
Of course he does.
Far out.
This is not anything peer reviewed. This is just some guy in a formula.
Say that again. Not peer reviewed. How many citations does it have?
You can't even explain to me. It doesn't make it peer reviewed.
Do I have to?
Because he has citations.
Sidor 1996.
Because he has citations does not make it peer reviewed.
Cited by 1,841. It is
Who
the
peer reviewed
Bible
it?
of refraction.
This computer code. Where's the abstract? Where's the methods?
That's the dude that translated the paper into code.
Okay, this dude's code is not even confirmed to be legitimate.
Oh, okay, whatever.
I'm trying to give you empirical evidence.
How would you verify the code?
Me, I've compared it against some older formulas.
You compared it against older formulas and you got what you expected, so you think it's right?
Well, I have field measurements, which
formulas. Anyway,
yeah, see in the code, there's like humidity, molar mass of dry air, water vapor, compressibility, density, dry component, water vapor component, so on and so forth. Seems like it has most of what it needs.
This is some random code that has not been verified. It does not have a materials method section, so I even know which calculations he used.
I haven't checked it, but I suppose it's based on the formula.
I'm giving you papers that literally say direct quotes that contradict what he's saying.
No, they don't. They don't
Yes, they
contradict.
do, and they are in there.
You're not understanding.
Vertical temperature gradients are primarily responsible for refraction, for atmospheric refraction.
That's the biggest variable.
Yes, and in that formula, excuse me, Roof, but in that formula you posted, you have the temperature gradient, yes?
Where?
Yes, it does.
DT over DH
How am I supposed to check anything?
DT over DH, isn't that the temperature gradient we just put in? Yeah.
No, and there's no way we can verify it either. Because he doesn't have materials and methods section talking about which calculations he used and how he compiled them.
Fuck. All of it.
Yeah, all of it. That's a random claim. That is no verification. I'm giving you papers that have empirical evidence showing things moving consistently. Quit interrupting me. Showing things moving consistently through the day and night. Okay, and multiple quotes from papers that are actually doing the calculations and talk about how they got the calculations, what each of the numbers mean, and saying that it's easy to see that temperature can easily overthrow pressure. Also, temperature gradients are primarily responsible for refraction effects. Okay, these are papers that have been verified and empirically measured.
Put numbers into your formula and see what happens.
You can't even give me any sources that actually state that pressure is more important than temperature gradients in atmospheric refraction, whereas I did. I literally did.
For the 50th time, the empirically derived formulas show that you need an extreme temperature gradient
from some random guy's computer calculation.
Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay, can I ask a question now? You guys are going back and forth heaps. Okay, this temperature gradient, is it like like you said, what, from the bottom to the top temperature gradient?
Yeah, it's like, warmer at the bottom every day on the Earth's surface.
Yeah, agreed. And the sun is coming from a very cool place, and that image of the sun at the horizon is transferring through a very cold temperature down to the sort of the temperature of the ground when you're looking at across the horizon. What's the temperature gradient got to do with it? We know that there's going to be a difference of at least 34 degrees between the image of the sun and where the observer is. So I don't really get that part.
34 degrees per kilometer. The measured lapse rate.
He has no evidence to back that either.
Oh, fucking hell, Taylor.
Oh, a random computer code. no evidence, like I said.
Yeah, I give up.
You don't need to repeat yourself, man. You've got your instantiation. You keep
She
repeating
keeps
it.
saying I have no evidence, and I keep giving it to her, and then she
He's
keeps
right.
going, "You
He
have no
does have no
evidence."
evidence.
Well, then you just got to agree to disagree. Right? You
I would
belligerently yelling
rather
the
see
same
peer
thing at
review
yourself.
paper. He wants to see a random guy's computer code. I give you peer review papers that actually show this happening every day and confirm it and explain it.
How about we pull out the Edlin equation? Let's get Edlin. All right, so not my paper, but one prior to it. I'll share my screen again.
Yes, I gave you an equation, and it stated that with this equation incorporating pressure, it's easy to see that temperature would clearly overthrow the pressure gradient. Therefore, you would be considering the temperature gradients, which are warmer at the bottom, which would cause things to compress.
I don't have the Edlin equation. I'll have to get it off the internet.
I already gave you an equation.
No, but we're using one that's been used for 50 years, right?
They actually talked about the pressure gradient and then compared it to the mathematics of the temperature gradients and said that they far outweigh them.
Hey, Rufinol, got a question.
Yeah.
Got a question there.
Yeah.
Your DT over DH, the 6 degrees is negative.
Oh, in my spreadsheet. Yeah, I was trying to. It doesn't say what the height is either. So whether it's meters or kilometers, I'm trying to find that.
Well, in terrestrial, I use 7.5 degrees per kilometer. So, but the negative sign, I've made that mistake before.
Yeah, I'm trying to find from the paper, but I think the Edlin equation is probably easier. All right, so I've found an online calculator for Edlin. Let's share that. Change stream.
And the formula that I've been using, I get the same refraction that stellarium gets, and then I compared that to real world measurements. And as
terrestrial.
Celestial.
We're
And
talking about terrestrial.
Okay, terrestrial, yes. I've done that as well.
All right, so I've got the modified Edlin up on the screen. Let's put in some numbers. All right, so we'll keep the wavelength at 633. That's fairly red, I think. Temperature 20 degrees, pressure 101.325, air humidity 50.
There's no gradients in here.
No, I know. We're going to make them in a second. This is a refractive index calculator. All right. So the output. So I've got to keep track of these inputs. One sec. So we're going to keep 633 nanometers, 20 degrees.
Hey Bill, did you see my paper in the chat?
Yep.
Sure, Bill.
And 50% RH. Copy. Boom. All right, so posting in the chat our first measurement, or our first calculation, sorry. Let's do another one. So what shall we do? We're going to change, let's make an extreme humidity gradient. Go to 0. 0 humidity? No?
Well, you can do whatever you want, but it wouldn't be going to 0.
All right, let's do temperature then. Let's do an extreme temperature gradient.
I have a question. I haven't seen that formula, but you said it calculates the refraction index.
Yeah.
That's all it does? Depending on the pressure, gradient, temperature? And, okay, that's all.
Just the pressure, temperature, humidity. Yeah. So I've set the temperature to 0, and let's say this happens over a kilometer. What is the air pressure at a kilometer? Oops. I'm going to say it's 89.874. 89.874. Calculate that. 258. All right, so this is the second one. We changed it to, where is it, Alan? 633 nanometers, 0 degrees Celsius, 89 0.874 kilopascals, still 50% humidity, and we got a much lower refractive index. Who would have fucking thunk it?
I'm still trying to work out exactly what the point of any of this is.
Okay, so then how far is things going to drop based on that? Go ahead.
They're not going to drop, they're going to raise. I've dropped the temperature 20 degrees over a kilometer's worth of pressure, right? So that's 20 degrees, that's a lapse rate of 20 degrees per kilometer, which is quite large, right? And we still get a typical density gradient, more dense at the surface, less dense higher up.
Which, by the way, is going to cause compression.
So then regardless. So then I'm just assuming that what you're saying is correct, Roohif. So then how would we explain anything moving?
Because the temperature gradient could change.
Okay, well then plug in that one where we do see it change. Let's see if this calculator you're using can actually predict what we're actually viewing.
Yeah, I'll just
based on whatever formula they're using. I'm not even sure here.
Yeah, I'll put in a different lapse rate. It'll give us a different refractive index.
Yeah, go ahead.
Different gradients. Fine, whatever.
Go ahead and show us why everything gets shorter during the day with your refraction calculator.
You keep saying shorter.
Yep, shorter. That's what they referred to the mountain in the peer-reviewed paper.
Yeah. Shorter versus
lower.
Okay,
so wait a minute. Are you talking about someone's view of that mountain, or are you talking about the actual mountain?
All right, let's go minus 20.
Someone's view.
Let's go minus
Someone's
20.
View.
So we've got a super lapse rate.
So,
Dream. Yep.
Someone's view of the mountain and the mountain itself.
Just like the sun just like the sun and the apparent sun, the size, the angular size, same thing.
Sun and the apparent sun.
Right? Because it could look a lot larger than it really is just because of the optical phenomenon.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that the sun is actually changing size. That's what we're referring to. The mountain's not changing size. It's just the apparent view.
So you're talking about light and the atmospheric conditions that can change your perspective of how you perceive the light. So
yeah, so freedom. Oh, sorry, you want to?
Right.
I'll give you a quick.
No, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, cool. So in the globe model, right? I'll use the globe model for a sec. When the sun sets, that's not actually you're not seeing where the sun actually is, right? It's actually tucked further around, lower than what you could perceive. But because of the way that reflection works within the atmosphere, it actually sets a little bit later than what it should objectively be if you were actually looking at the actual sun due to this refractive index, right?
Okay.
You appreciate where we're coming from?
Okay. You can see it a little longer than you quote unquote should be able to.
I don't know exactly what it is, but basically, if you took the size of the sun, the horizon, which is what is it, half a degree angular size, it's actually already set. I mean, if there was no atmosphere on Earth, it would have already set. But due to atmosphere, it causes that image to wrap around a little bit more, which implies then the image is being lifted up in the horizon of the observer. Hopefully, that's done that as best I could.
Okay.
That's about right.
Okay, so I guess I don't see the disagreement then.
The issue is would the sun disappear on a flat Earth, right? Due to if the sun was just above you, you can't see forever. What would how would it close down at the peripherals of that vision on the terrestrial Earth? That big orb in the sky. And basically, the difference is in this refraction index implies whether it's globe or flat. This is what the whole argument's been basically about.
Okay, so are you wouldn't that whole conversation then be more
in order to determine that, right, you'd have to work out the nature of optics within the atmosphere. They're working out the nature of optics in the atmosphere to basically sort of assert which phenomenon we'd expect. And we'd is that caused by Earth curvature, or is it just caused by an optical phenomenon of the atmosphere closing down your field of view due to the temperature and refraction indices?
Right, but the view. Okay, so one observer in a particular location looking through the atmosphere isn't going to change the size and shape of the Earth.
Okay, well, I mean, we argue this all the time that the sky doesn't prove the shape of the ground, but I mean, that's a different topic. These guys want to argue about refraction, so we're just jumping on the bandwagon.
I'm not trying to argue about anything. I'm just trying to understand the conversation here. That's all. It's easier to listen to if I can try to wrap my head around what's going to be debated, I guess.
Probably in the chat, though. Flat Earthers seem awfully confused about the lives of globers. It seems like a deliberate tactic to shy away from the evidence.
Yeah, the evidence shows that things compress during the day with temperature gradient. Sorry.
Okay,
and here's another quote from a peer-reviewed paper talking about how when the wave passes through regions of atmospheric boundary layer which display markedly different vertical temperature distributions, the assumption of near constant dN over dH is not always valid.
Agreed.
So empirical and measurable and repeatable data. Well, disagree.
What does it mean for DNDH to not be stable?
I thought that was the pressure calculation.
No. DN is the change in refractive index, and DH is the height. So if the gradient is changing, that's when you get these compression and towering and all this sort of shit, right? You get
Right.
black Spanish. Yeah.
And then it goes on to say, it has the DN over DH, and it talks about the 79p over t squared, so on and so forth. And then it says, from this equation, it's apparent that knowledge of temperature gradient is all that's required for the determination of the refraction angle.
And what have I said 10 times now? You don't need to plug in a pressure gradient because
it's
the pressure's stable.
Stable, right?
Okay, so if the pressure's stable, then why would we even get refraction? Isn't it things moving through
gradient.
different mediums?
Pressure gradient is stable. If
Yep,
know the pressure,
and apparently it's pretty negligible.
No.
Unless you can show me otherwise. You'd have to show that things don't change with
Taylor.
temperature
We
changes.
just did it. Go back to 44 minutes.
It's such a weird.
Dude, empirical reality doesn't match your acclaimed calculation, dude.
No,
Sorry.
I've got an equation that's.
We see things shrinking every day, and raising up every night.
I've got an equation that's roughly 100 years old. I think the Edlin equation, maybe the 40s or 50s. I don't know, whatever.
But we have observations. Physical
We've
observations.
been through this, honey. You've also explained. Have you not? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm asking you then. Haven't you already said that this index, it can be wrong most of the time, or at the time, or any time, right? It's all over the place sometimes.
The gradient.
We've talked about this. Yeah.
I don't know what you mean by wrong.
It's going to change all the time, constantly changing.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, Taylor, go back to 44 minutes in the chat. Live stream text. Yep. So I've got two messages there. One with one pair of numbers, and then the next one with another pair of numbers. Or whatever. Yeah.
Temperature gradients are primarily responsible for atmospheric refraction, quote unquote.
Right. Can you see in the chat at 44 minutes past? Starting with
So
633 nanometers. Yep. So the first little block there, 633 nanometers, 20 degrees, sea level pressure, 50% humidity, and then under that is the refractive index, right? So 1.00271. 271, right? The next one, I've kept the wavelength the same at 633 nanometers. I've dropped the temperature by 20 degrees Celsius. All right, so that's quite an extreme, or not an extreme one, but a strong, very strong temperature gradient. I've changed the pressure to what it would be at 1 kilometer above sea level. I've kept the humidity the same. And then I get a refractive index of 1.000258. Right? So the sea level refractive index is more dense than the one higher up. And I had to change the temperature by 20 degrees per kilometer. That's a big change. The typical one is about 8 degrees in our atmosphere, thereabouts. Right, so that's the first
Temperature gradients are primarily responsible for atmospheric refraction.
Put it into your formula.
These are new papers. These are empirically measured.
I understand. And I've told you 1,000 times you are
I'm quoting a peer review paper here. I'm not quoting myself.
Peer review papers as well. CIDOR, cited by 18
Guess what they did?
other papers.
They actually measured something over day and night.
Jesus Christ, do you want to listen or not?
So, can Roohif, can this formula that this website that you're using to punch in everything, is it using the papers that Taylor's referring to?
This is the Edlin equation. Let me look up when
these are old.
Derived. Yeah, and CIDOR improved on.
How did they get them? Did they get them because what they expected was different than what they saw?
No, they measure the refractive.
Then how did they get them?
Right, they have refractometers, right, where they send light through one path and send light through a vacuum, and the first path has air in it of the whatever temperature, pressure, humidity, and then they get a.
Did they incorporate gradients in this Eden equation?
This is not about gradients. This is about working out the refractive.
It's all about gradients. That's what everything about refraction is.
This isn't. Okay, this is about
working
out the refractive. It's not. This is about working out the refractive index of air.
Of a stable condition.
So they send light through one path, send light through a vacuum. They get a interference pattern at the end, and from that they work out the refractive index of the medium that it went through relative to vacuum.
In a stable gradient.
It's not a gradient.
In a stable condition, no gradient. That's the problem here. They're not incorporating gradients. That's the issue. That's what's causing
not a measurement of the gradient, Taylor. Please stop saying that.
But that's the problem.
No,
they're not looking at gradients.
We're at step 1. Step 2 is the gradient. Right? Step 1 is
what
working
calculation
out
incorporates gradients.
We'll get to
that's what you need to be looking at. You don't need to be looking at individual steps. Because whenever you're looking through the atmosphere, you're looking through gradients. You're not looking through any stable.
But we need to know what the refractive index is at each point, right? To work
Where's your gradient calculation?
Do we need to work out the index at each point to work out the gradient? Right, let's fucking do that now.
Yes.
Right. Let's work out the refractive index first, and then we can work out a gradient.
Okay, it's okay because people have already done it and concluded, quote unquote, temperature gradients are primarily responsible for atmospheric refraction. I'll continue to link that into the source, and this is actually something that they empirically measured with mountains moving up and down every day.
Right.
So what do you
equation.
say whenever reality doesn't match with your equation?
For the
Then what?
20th time, you have misinterpreted what they are saying in that paper.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
That's exactly what they're saying.
Put your numbers into your formula and come back to me.
Roohif, why don't we
I
need to
already gave you a
know the
formula.
gradient first before we do the actual refractive index? Why? Why isn't this kind of backwards?
The refractive gradient is the change in refractive index. Like, how are you meant to get the gradient without knowing
No.
the refractive index?
Here's a formula that's showing that temperature is prevailing in determining the refraction angle.
Put some numbers into it.
You
it's
can
even
put
better
it
than
in
just
whatever
reading
program you want.
papers
This is just empirically measurable. This isn't some cope calculation where things are off and therefore that's how much refraction.
That'll do me for tonight, I think.
These are actually measuring
Very
mountains
disappointed
every
in you,
day.
Taylor. Very disappointed in you.
I'm giving you peer-reviewed papers.
Yeah,
You're giving me some online calculator and some guy's computer code. I'm trying to give you quotes from papers from things they've measured.
Okay, the Edlin equation, like, was the equation for something like 50 or 60 years, and then Sidor overtook it. Right? This is the Bible of refraction. Anyway.
Bible. Hey,
Yes.
you got a Bible, Roohif. You got a Bible too.
It is
really?
the Bible of
there you
refraction.
go.
Roohif, could it be wrong?
1900.
Could it be something better? Is out now that you're not applying or even trying to listen to her on at all? Is there a possibility?
That I'm wrong in this case? No, there's not.
Is your
Yeah, it's been
Bible wrong,
upgraded.
Roohif? Is your
Has the
Bible wrong?
possibly been upgraded, like the King James version, or another version that comes out,
No,
right? Upgraded.
If you read the paper, he talks about how the accuracy of it, you're getting to like the 8th decimal place of how good the formula is.
What paper?
The Sidor paper.
What?
The paper with multiple different formulas that you couldn't tell me which one he actually incorporated.
Holy shit.
I agree with that paper. I just don't agree with his computer code.
Okay. Well, the computer code agrees with the Edlin equation to like 6 decimal places, which is why I assume it's correct.
How do you know? Who's verified that?
Me! I just fucking said it.
You're the only one.
Dude, just
that's
one
the
step.
problem.
Wait. What? Because it got 6 decimal places, you think it's more correct? Like, can I just add decimal places to anything, and you're like, oh, it's more correct?
No.
Like, what does that
The
mean?
question was.
Dude, that's
This
a really
is
good
just not peer reviewed. There's no
formula?
methods. I can't even look at what equations they used. He just gave me some random guy's computer equation.
Yeah, but I know that it's correct because I've checked it against the Edlin equation.
And I know it's correct. I know it's incorrect because empirical reality disagrees with it. And I've given you multiple papers tracking mountaintops over the day.
No, I'm disappointed in you, Taylor. Anyway, good night, everyone.
I'm disappointed in you. You haven't given me.
No, but Roohif, are you just trying to, Roohif, before you run off, are you just trying to like make it fit, bro? You just want to make it work.
Oh yeah, don't hold him back just because you
That's
want
all
to
you're doing. He left. He couldn't handle it.
Roohif will never change his mind on this.
Agrees with that.
Dude, Roohif's been debating refraction for a long time. He just keeps debating the same shit over and over. He'll never change his viewpoint, guys.
This is his Bible, though. You got no.
Exactly.
I wonder if maybe you guys can correct me. Do you think brightness is a factor as well? Because we're considering temperature, humidity, but what about lumens? Because when we take away the lumens, we can find certain results that Tayler has presented in that paper. Is lumens a factor?
Do anything. All you have to do is track a mountaintop throughout the day, and it gets shorter. That's it.
So, yeah, I would say that
quality of light is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I'm breaking up or.
Yeah, that broke up. If you want to try that again.
Well, lumens, do you quality of lightness there?
Yeah, I don't think lumens has got too much. Like, it's just lumens would just be how your capacity to see it versus the background. So lumens is like related to contrast. So that'd be how crisp it is as far as the image. But yeah, I don't think lumens really.
More scattering. So, wouldn't there be more scattering with the water droplets in the air?
Yeah, but that's not lumens.
Well, I'm just saying lumens is a factor of the temperature because usually the more lumens, right up near the subsolar point, that's where the evaporation occurs. So lumens is. I'm just saying maybe it's a known variable that we're not including in this formula. Just an opinion.
Yeah, cool. I'd say that lumens is like the bright. So if you've got an incandescent light, it has a certain amount of lumens, but it'll be throwing off a certain amount of heat. And then you get these LEDs, and they're called high lumen value, but low heat. It's like energy saving, right? So yeah, they're different sort of coefficient, if that's the right term, but coefficients.
Yeah. Thank you. It was just a thought. I was just thinking because when we take away the brightness.
You're right, bro. I do. These conversations do my head in. So kudos to Roohif and
it's just
Tayler for taking it on. But yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good
Tayler,
head-to-head.
you know, Roohif,
Robot bro.
Well done, Taylor. Great way to remain calm, even in the face of curse words and whatnot.
It does help when people are actually listening.
But that's like half the time.
Curse words, huh?
Well, it kind of just. I mean, some people can't help it. I mean, I used to curse a lot. I had a close friend of mine tell me that he noticed I was cursing a lot, so I made a concerted effort to stop.
What's a curse word?
Well, there's the obvious, the ones that people don't want to say in front of their grandma all the time or in church.
Oh, you mean words?
Yeah, certain words.
Before you think people that say it, just start saying it. It's really unfortunate. Like my best friend says the F word all the time. God, would you please? It's 4 times in one sentence sometimes. So did my ex, and it was all of a sudden my behavior came out of my mouth. I'm like, dude, I can't do that at work professionally. So you gotta start watching who you hang out with.
Yeah. Sometimes there's children watching too, right? We don't want some children might be listening to these streams.
Really?
Yeah, family members. Some people have family, right? And there's people listening. They don't want them to be exposed to continual curse words.
Curse words. Okay, who's the one deciding what curse word?
Society.
There's words.
Yeah.
I agree that they're words. But if I decide that ham sandwich is a curse word, and then I get all upset at everybody in here because everybody keeps saying ham sandwich, is that
nobody would
reasonable to you?
People talk about eggplants and tacos a lot, so yeah, look, you can turn a food group into a curse word eventually.
Sure, you could turn anything into a curse word, especially if I wanted to be a whiny pussy about it and try to control other people's language.
Some people just can't control themselves, I guess. They
That's
want
right,
to
They're just words, bro. They're just words.
Yeah, dude, like
but there's children sometimes worse listening. It's called self-awareness.
There's a like it'd be best if we sort of do reserve the curse words for like it just gets a bit too much. But yeah, but there shouldn't be young people listening to this. Really, it's an 18+ platform.
So who was?
But by the same
was
time,
Roohif swearing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Roohif was.
Who was swearing with Roohif? Oh god.
I've heard Roohif say words.
The problem here is because in life, when somebody asks you to kind of quit doing something, there's a respect there. Just like with the old man when I was working at Dairy Queen, asked me not to call him hun because his wife had passed away, and the only person that called him hun was his wife. And some people from different countries look at that with a certain respect, even though I'm country. Okay, and we say honey, sweetheart, all that shit all the time. It's about respect for one another. If you can't give that to each person you meet, then you're going to get it from other people back. That's up to you in life.
Mm.
Respect is
in Australia, the girls call you doll. Hi, doll.
Right. If somebody just says, please, my kids are listening, or just whatever, honey, you just kind of go, or you don't give two shit.
Mm. Okay, I just got a general question here. So, in what way are you defending refraction for flat Earth? What's the benefit?
Yeah, refraction is going to consist of combusting in natural atmospheric conditions where the temperature gradient is warm near the surface and the humidity levels are higher. That I didn't just make that up either. I'm talking from empirically repeated experiments.
I can destroy refraction in seconds.
I don't see how that would be relevant to the size of the Earth.
I can destroy refraction within seconds, and I don't know why other people can't see it. Because you're saying that refraction is bending things, light, so we see things differently, over long distances.
Yes, things. You know how the sun will be cut off halfway through, or like, a boat will be like looking like it's sinking down into the ocean. So that's like to be expected. Like with the temperature.
Okay, I can explain that in seconds. So, what I do this all the time at the ocean, right? Now, if you're down at the beach, say you're standing 5 or 6 feet high, and you look at a boat disappearing, one of the main factors that's obscuring that boat bottom up is wave activity. So as you go further out, the waves will eventually bob the boat and restrict the vision of the boat. But if you come up the bank, up the sand dunes 6 or 8 feet, the boat comes back into view because you're above the wave line. Now, you could argue that on calm days, you don't have any waves, but there's always going to be a wave somewhere or some type of splash or consistency that will obscure it.
The waves would have to be taller.
And also, what's that?
The waves would have to be taller than the boat, or at least taller than you.
No, it won't have to be taller than the boat, because if you look at a wave, closer to you, it obscures more longer distance out. So, for example, we've done this experiment before.
Your island.
Yeah, but if you're standing at the beach and you're looking at across the water,
regardless, even if you have the best
a wave close to you is going to obscure everything behind it. Even if it's
still has to rise above your eye level, though. If you got down on your belly, maybe sure.
Yeah, but as I said, once you come up the bank and you get above the waves, you can see the boat fully again.
Not always.
But here's the proof.
It's just not happening.
Anything doesn't matter what your
Mhm.
doesn't matter what the observer height is. Doesn't matter how wonderful of a camera you have. You can
Mhm.
pull it back into view for a certain amount of time. But if the boat continues to travel away from you, it's gone at some point.
Well,
You can
It's
pull it
going
into
down.
view due to angular
but the thing
resolution,
is,
but
I
not
can
auto
spot a
focus.
boat. You can spot a
Oh,
boat at a height of 75 meters, 200 miles away, on perfect conditions. So I don't know where this is occurring. I'm not sure what people are looking at, or but the problem is, I don't think the science of like refraction is a really good one to pursue, because the globe is that's their belief system to see long distances. But for flat Earth, it's unnecessary. Just I don't know. I'd love someone to prove it to me. If you got it.
Arguably, you need more refraction for a flat Earth.
No, you don't need refraction at all.
Absolutely, you do.
Why?
To make sense of the celestial sphere. Meanwhile,
We're not
I posted in.
looking at flat Earth, but we're not looking at flat Earth. We're not looking
regardless
at
of boats
vessels.
on the horizon, explain if the Earth is flat. Please, someone,
Yes.
anybody, please explain. Literally any astronomical phenomenon, anything. Predict an eclipse. Predict an eclipse. Explain why the shadow on the moon during an eclipse is curved. If you lived on Pizza Planet, it would look like a pencil going across the moon. Instead of engulfing the moon.
The moon's the phenomenon, right? The sun's the phenomenon. We don't understand this, but we know it exists.
We understand it.
And we can observe it. Right.
And
Lunar
also
eclipses and solar eclipses.
Meanwhile, I've posted something about bringing things back from over the horizon. If anyone's interested.
Yeah, okay. I've seen this video before. But this, see, he's an observer height. I'm just saying 6 or 8 feet, right?
No,
so
I think he's
observing
35 feet.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for it, right? But all of a sudden, right, he's zooming this one ship, right? And then all of a sudden, he freezes the frame, right? And then he freezes it again on the zoom. So, no, this does not occur at the ocean. I've never seen this happen, ever.
Oh, you've seen it now.
It's hogwash. It's fake.
This is fake, you're saying?
100% fake.
That's what you're going with? All right.
Yeah, because
amazing
this does not occur.
Flat measurements don't they can't occur over land. It always has to be over water.
And also, I'll give you something else, right? If I take this video at face value, that it's not edited, right? If this guy stood up on top of that vehicle there, he could rezoom that full boat. Because it's not about refraction. It's about angle. Everything in flat Earth and everything about our globe is everything about our flat Earth is angle.
Not everything. I mean, flat Earth, sure. The problem is that angles don't explain that.
This does not. I go to the beach all the time. I've never seen this happen. So I'd like to know where he did it. Like this weird phenomenon he's got going here.
It says in the description.
Maybe that boat's slow.
That's 12.6 miles. The closer ship is the Glorious Makuta at 8.86 miles. The camera was approximately 30 feet above the water. I still have available for you the original video and photos, GPS data for the ship locations, my filming location, and the weather and tide conditions at the time.
Yeah, it just doesn't occur.
Here's an interesting.
I remember when we were kids, right? We'd go on holidays, and we just go to the Queensland coast, and we'd stand up on the sandbank, and we could spot the boats out to ocean, right? And we could spot them out 60, 80, 100 miles, no problem. This doesn't occur. And if anyone could prove it, I'd love you to do it.
I wouldn't know how to go about doing that besides doing what this guy just did. I mean, honestly,
yeah, so you've got to be, as I said, look, I'm not sure if you're biased in your arguments, but you've got to be very careful of YouTube videos posted like this.
Here's an interesting phenomenon. You ever notice that most flat earthers are religious folk that really want to say that that the firmament's a thing and that proves the Bible and blah 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 down that line of prove the Bible.
Yeah,
thing.
no, but we're not discussing celestial spheres or planets.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Hang on a second, Blartek. That's an interesting observation that the Christians do mention the firmament, but they have a right to mention it. It's in the Bible. I'm not a Christian. I'm not religious. It's in their Bible. And when you look at the flat Earth and the air that we have, it has to be contained for air pressure. So that's why you understand we can't have air in a vacuum without a container. Do you understand? So that firmament would be the container. So it's quite logical. Hang on, it's quite logical that they think the firmament is a real thing first and foremost, and the fact that it's in the Bible just confirms their logic. That's all. Nothing strange at all. It's not a weird phenomena. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, you've got to understand, what do universities and governments do, right, to us all the time? Okay, I'll explain it. What governments do to us, right, they feed us junk science, misinformation, lies, wars, corruption, all this government shit, right? And it totally bogs us down with emotion-driven garbage and distraction. So we're not actually pursuing the truth. But behind the scenes, the government is constantly working behind us to milk information off the public and steal it as their own.
Well stated.
Right? I'll give you
Sure.
I'll give you an example of this, right? They had hybrid cars, scooters, and fucking other types of motors and electric engines 140 years ago. But it was all buried. They stole the information and murdered these people and had electric cars and all this stuff. But they got rid of it. All of a sudden in 2024, whatever it is, we've got scooters, we've got hybrid engines, we've got electric cars and solar panels. Why did you bury it for 140 years?
It's like pot, dude, being a Schedule 1 when it was never a Schedule 1. Yes. But what I still don't see what that has to do with thousands of years of human experience mapping the sky.
Yeah,
it doesn't have anything to do with any one.
Okay, there you go. There's a good example.
Because all those are
so
gone.
Your argument is the sky hasn't changed in thousands of years?
The pressure to the atmosphere exert on this claimed dome.
No, the sky has changed. Well, the sky hasn't really changed. Our perspective of the
we
sky has drifted, yes.
We seem
And it will again.
We seem to have 14.7 psi here at sea level, so that's what we're talking about. If that's accurate, that's what we have. 14.7 psi. Okay, that's what we have. So that will be the pressure that's being exerted on the firmament or the container, the dome, whatever that shape of that container is. We don't know the shape of it. I don't know because I haven't been able to go there to go and check. It's beyond the regions that I've ever been to. We understand that it is being patrolled. You can only go to these places through organized tours, and you will never get to go to the dome because you're restricted in where you can go. So at the moment, we have obstacles that we need to surmount and get out of the way, like the government and its rules and regulations.
Yeah, well, even
the pressure
these servers bog us down with misinformation. And like Roohif, right? Roofy's sitting here for hours ranting about graphs and calculations that actually don't equate to anything. But he's doubling down hour and hour, just milking all our time and trying to distract us away. And I asked Roohif, who do you work for?
Is there a pressure gradient?
I'm sure, but then another thing is just a vast misunderstanding of what you're observing.
That's why I asked you.
Not really, no misunderstanding at all. No misunderstanding. We know what we're talking about. We use logic and what's the other one?
Because we know we have
there's books being written about these people for thousands of years. All they do is muddy the waters, distract, and try to humiliate people and discredit them. This is how they operate. Nothing's changed. You just got to weed these people out.
What's the
easy. They're going to wear themselves out. I'm not going to give up. It's deductive reasoning. So like
they
the
won't give up.
method, for example. It's common sense. Yeah.
Okay, so wait a minute.
They're not going to give up. They'll be 85 years of age, still sitting on the internet ranting about refraction and all these angles and shit. You know.
I was asking about the atmospheric pressure, the pressure gradient. We know that the pressure drops as we get higher in altitude. Yes.
Yeah. Right. That pressure gradient that you mentioned is in flux, so it's constantly on the move and in flux. So
that's why I asked. To the atmosphere exert on this claimed dome, it can't be much, though, can it?
Hey, Stefan, why don't you enjoy your retirement, bro, and just pursue something else?
The pressure of that.
Fun.
Hang on, Blartek. He's asked a good question. He has asked a good question. It deserves an answer. And the answer is, if it wasn't for the container, you wouldn't be allowed to ask that question. Okay? So the container's there. Because when it comes to pressure of any kind, pressure is achieved like gas pressure, water pressure, oil pressure, blood pressure, eye pressure. These things we need a container for. Okay? Tire pressure. You need a container for that. For pressure to build up. So the air pressure is there because of the container. If it wasn't there, it would have been entropied and vacuumed up. It would have been vacuumed away by the vacuum itself, entropy, and transitioned into the void of the vacuum, and we'd all be dead. There'd be no life on Earth.
That's okay. That would be true if that's how space works, but that's not how space works.
Look, hang on a minute. You're forgetting that hot pressure goes to low pressure, hot goes to cold. That's natural law. Okay, so the air's pressure, which is lower than the vacuum, it will just go straight into the vacuum. There's no two ways about it. That's been demonstrated and proven many times. So you're misunderstanding what's going on there. I think you need to do a little bit of research just to get a better understanding, a better grip.
Space is just the absence
thermodynamics are.
Well, at sea level, we have a pressure of about 14.7 psi. At the top of Mount Everest, it's about 10 psi lower. Why doesn't the pressure difference equalize?
It doesn't equalize because it's in flux. It's constantly moving and in flux. That's how it works. That's how the system works. The fact is, if it wasn't for the container, you wouldn't have that situation. Okay, you wouldn't have this pressure gradient. Remember, please don't ignore the gorilla in the room. Yeah, the thing is, the gorilla in the room is the container. Don't ignore it. That's a fact. Without containment, you can't have pressure. Okay, only a retard will be thinking that you don't.
You can with weight. And that continuously drops down until the outermost part of the atmosphere is about the same pressure as near space. There wouldn't be any pressure difference between them. And if you don't have any pressure difference, gas won't move away, would it?
See, this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the atmosphere. It's the thickest and the heaviest at sea level. And as you go up, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until there is none. And that's called space. So it doesn't require a container. And when you say pressure, you're talking about one atmospheric pressure, which is literally just the weight of the fucking atmosphere. That's
now you're misdescribing the air that we breathe. It's not atmosphere, because in Latin, atmos means gas, and sphere is spherical, and gases do not form spheres.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a wrong description already. You're already describing it wrong.
It's not, because it's
atmo, and that's it. There's no sphere. Gases don't form balls. They don't. They're omnidirectional. Sorry, you'd have to just demonstrate that. Show me a gas forming a spherical shape. They don't do that.
You're breathing one right now. Yes, it's called the atmosphere.
Gases do not form spherical shapes. You're wrong again.
Again, forget let's get the air. There is a pressure gradient in the air. We know that. The strange thing is, normally, if you have, like down here, if you have like a balloon with higher pressure in it, and you open it up, the pressures equalize. But in vertical direction, the pressure differences do not equalize.
Right.
Why?
Because that's not what's going on.
Because the composition, percentage-wise, at sea level and the top of Mount Everest, have the same percentage-wise composition of the atmosphere. Less dense, fewer particles, yes, but you still have about 78% nitrogen, 20% oxygen at the top of Mount Everest as you have at the sea level. So
you have less of it. You have less of it, but it's all in flux anyway. So I still don't understand your point. You're saying there's no container, but there is. Without it, you couldn't even have the pressure gradient. Couldn't have it without the container. Sorry.
Yes, you can.
Antecedent, common sense.
Could you show me? Let's say you have two bottles connected by a hose, and you have a higher pressure. You have 14.7 psi in one, and you have 4.7 psi in the other, and you have a valve. What happens when you open that valve? The pressure
equilibrium will be achieved. Equilibrium will be achieved, of course.
Yeah. Why doesn't that happen in the air?
Sorry?
Why doesn't that happen in the air if you have like 14.7?
It actually does. It's just to make up. You're not letting me finish now.
I can't even speak.
Can't you hear me talking? Fucking hell. Now, what happens is, with the air that we have on this earth and the container, the air is free to move around. You understand? So it's reaching its equilibrium when it starts to do this pressure gradient. That's its equilibrium that's going on there. I still don't get your point. You need a container. I don't get your point. Where are you going with it?
I'm asking you. Why doesn't the high pressure air at sea level rush up to the 10 psi lower air pressure that like Mount Everest?
Oh, because of the material that the air that we breathe and the density of it. That's why. You understand the actual air composition. That's why it's doing that. But it is flowing. It's moving up and down and flowing around with the wind and everything else. That's how it's been designed by the creator, of course. If you don't understand that, you have to wait till you die to ask it.
If there was
nothing, if there was nothing keeping the air in place as it is with the pressure gradient, and you just had a dome, then the pressure inside that dome should equalize.
Not yet, but that's what this pressure gradient is doing. Okay, the gases are equalizing and leveling up with themselves. Remember, everything is still in movement. Okay, you've still got the wind. Everything's in flux. Don't forget that. Everything's on the move. You've got your wind,
but you're not getting it, bro.
snow, sleet, rain, temperature variations, weather. That all proves what's going on Earth. It's dynamic, remember, this system that we have. And again, you still need the container. Ladies and gentlemen, you need a container. So I still don't get his point.
No, you
He
really
keeps
don't.
asking why. We're explaining why, and he's asking why it's that. Go and ask God. If you're not satisfied, go and ask the Creator. Quite simple.
You're just not getting it, bro. If there was a dome, okay, this big container, okay, there would be no difference, no measurable distance or difference from the air at sea level to the air at the highest altitude. It would all be the same because it would be in a container.
Not when it's moving around. Not when it's moving around, and you've got temperature variations going on. You don't understand, sir. You don't understand.
No. It's always moving around.
Yes, because of the temperature variations. That's why you're going to get heavier air at the bottom and less at the top. That's why.
No, it's not. You're always going to have thicker atmosphere at the bottom and thinner atmosphere at the top, no matter what. Even with everything moving around.
That's the norm. That's normal.
Shouldn't if it was just based on it, shouldn't a lower temperature air be more dense than the warmer air?
They tend to flow into each other. Listen, here we go again. Look, here we go again. They tend to flow into each other. Yeah. Sorry?
In regards to Stefan's question, there's another factor that actually counters that, but I'm not going to tell him why.
Yeah, but colder air is normally lighter than warm air. No, heavier than.
No. Other way around. Cold air is heavy.
I was going to say it's the exact opposite. Yeah. Cold goes down more.
Yeah, I do feel you guys are flogging a dead horse here. You're flogging a dead horse. You're asking the why. We're giving you the whys. You're still asking more whys. Being silly.
It's not why, bro. It's not
You're asking why. We're giving you the answers. We know what it is. We know what it is. We flat earthers fully understand what's going on. We know we're not a ball hurting for the universe. We've got to be under a container, some kind of dome. It's necessary. Otherwise, we would be dead in the vacuum of space. And there's been numerous amounts of experiments conducted here on Earth at sea level in vacuum chambers to prove this fact. So, it's for you to go and do more research. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And let's say I have a 10-meter long pipe, and I have that vertical, and the bottom one has 14 psi, the top one has like 5 psi. If I open that valve, the high pressure in the bottom one will rush up to equalize the lower pressure on the top bottle. That does not happen in the.
Right. See, I was really hoping this whole time I've been in this chat, there was going to be some meaningful conversation about some meaningful thing, but I pretty much gave up hope on the meaningful conversation.
Well, okay, that's on you then, isn't it? Why is it on us?
Yeah.
That's your problem.
It's not us. We're telling you the answers, and the whys are still coming. We've got pipes of different lengths coming up, and equalizing. What you don't see, hang on, I'm still talking. What you don't seem to understand is that the air and the size of the Earth and the dome, the air is moving around as it would do naturally. It's happening. You just don't want to see it. You don't want to accept it. That's the problem we've got here.
We have a pressure gradient system.
Like I said earlier, if there was a dome, it would be constant. The high atmosphere would be the same as low atmosphere because it would be contained in a container.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. That's all wrong as well. No, you see, because you're ignoring the dynamic system. Yeah, you're ignoring the dynamic system that the Earth is. Okay, you're ignoring that. With temperature variations, you've got a sun that's heating up the Earth all over. No, you don't get it.
Go measure it right now.
You don't understand.
And you don't know how big the flat Earth is, so it could be much larger than what you think.
This dynamic air does not. It's still there. Even within storm systems, you still have a pressure gradient. Same as you do when the weather is calm.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the air is dynamic. The pressure is the same. The composition is the same for quite a few kilometers upwards.
Yeah, other than it thick at the bottom and thin.
I still don't get your point. What is your gripe or your beef? What is it you don't understand? Because we need a container. Without it, we can't have air pressure. That is a fact and an antecedent. It's inescapable, unavoidable. Okay, irrefutable.
That's a kind of dynamic system that you're describing.
Drops down by
dynamic system you're describing.
Yeah, and if that pressure gradient continues dropping down until the pressure out of the outermost part of the atmosphere is the same as a local space, gas will go nowhere. You need pressure differences for gas.
Yeah, gases flowing to one another. There you go. You see.
Yeah, I can explain all this, and I know all the answers because I've worked it out. But I'm not telling these guys.
No, of course not.
What Jim is describing would show constant updrafts almost uniformly, and we don't see that. So it can't. The dynamic system can't be the answer to what they're asking.
It is definitely that, because that's what we observe. That's what we flat earthers observe. I don't know what you're looking at. You're trying to tell the world. Hang on. You're trying to tell the world you live on a globe, and you haven't even presented it to yourself. You've never seen this thing. Okay? Come on, man.
I have, but besides that, that's not the point. What you're talking about is a dynamic
That is
system
the
would
point.
require
That is
the
the
hot air
point.
at the bottom to rush upwards constantly, everywhere. We don't see that.
No, it wouldn't.
That's what we do see. That's what we do see. You don't
There's a
see
reason
it.
why it
That's what
doesn't.
we do see. You're just ignoring it. It's what we do see.
Yeah.
You're just
What do we
ignoring.
see?
You're ignoring it all because you want to keep this ball Earth alive. It doesn't exist. We do not live on a ball. It's not measurable at all. We're not spinning. We're not hurtling through the universe. And space, that I recognize space as the surface of the Earth to the blue sky that I see that turns at night. That's all the space that I know of. Deep space, universes, they're just things you think that are real when you haven't even been there to confirm it. No one can go there. Story that you have to believe. I choose not to believe it because it's not real. Thank you.
You keep running to the meta.
Yeah, but still,
I'm right
still
here
you
in your
don't
face, mate. I'm right here.
gradient. You still explain why we have a pressure gradient.
I know why.
The reason why we have a
You are-
pressure gradient are
What
due
you
to
asking me was,
the temperature. Hang on a minute. Temperature variations that we have, right, and the way that the system works. That's why we have it. Now, if you don't understand that, then you're going to have to wait till you pass away and then speak to God and ask Him, how comes you created it like that? Okay. Remember, we didn't create this earth. Okay. We didn't make this earth. And we try to understand it as best as we can. And we know one thing: you can't have pressure, air pressure, without a container. You just cannot.
Well, cold air is more dense than warm air, which means that the most dense air at the surface should be the coldest air, and the warm air should be higher up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, but they're intertwined, aren't they? They're interlinked. They mix together. That's what causes all these storms and that, the temperature variations. And the mixes of the gas. It's all to do with that. That's why they're mixing up the way they are. That's why we call it dynamic.
But it's still.
I'm going to say it again for the eighth time. I still don't get your point because you're going to need a container for your air pressure. What's your problem? There is no globe. What's your problem?
If the pressure gradient continues to
no, Jim, what he's trying to do, he's trying to get you to say something that you shouldn't, right? This is the tactics these people always use. I know the answer to the question, but he doesn't.
Yeah, I understand that as well, Blartek. I know exactly what they're doing, which is why I keep on repeating. I don't get their point to see where they're going because they're going nowhere.
Okay, listen, I'll give you a history lesson about communism, right? What the communists adopted the globe model as part of their inception to implement communism worldwide, right? So all this fake science, this ideology, this atheism, this death cult, these wars are all based on the same model, right? That's why they got to cling to the ball because it's their communist control agenda. Once you understand that, you can deal with these people.
Yeah, but it doesn't even exist.
And the symbol,
the thing doesn't
the symbol for the left and the symbol for the unions and the symbol for the communist is always a globe, right? And the globe model was introduced in the 1910 along with communism when they started rise up in Russia and Germany. Simple.
Actually,
Globe
the
versus just communism.
the Earth has been known for thousands of years.
No, it hasn't. No, it was only introduced.
No, it hasn't. Actually, that's a nice story.
At the end of the 19th century and the start of the 20th century, that's when the globe model was introduced to the public en masse. At the same time, the rise of communism. Simple. Before that, no one believed this shit.
A fascinating theory of fiction there.
That's what you're putting forward, sir. Yours is fiction.
Type into your browser, right?
Remember, you don't even have a globe that we can measure. The globe doesn't measure up to the truth.
Thousands of years.
Okay, provide your evidence of this thousands of years of human experience.
Every single ancient culture that we're aware of. They're
you're another communist. I won't deal with you. So anyway, type into your browser, right? Russian Communist Revolution globe model, and that was their motto.
Hey, bud.
Simple.
Hitler was also a Christian. Does that mean that all Christians are Nazis?
That's a non sequitur and a red herring.
Right. No.
It's not what we need. That's not our position. That's not our position, and that's not what we're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, but I know he's trying to. That's why he invokes Hitler because he's a communist. I just called him out on it. It's the same every time, Jim. I know these people. I know everything about them.
The Earth is communism.
Yep, 101.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody that can view. Okay. any flat earther in here that can explain one thing. Why, when you stand in the northern hemisphere, do the stars rotate counterclockwise? But in the southern hemisphere, they rotate clockwise.
Yeah, that question has been asked so many times. We've answered it so many times. Yeah, silly.
But we're not looking at the stars to prove flat Earth.
It depends on which way you're facing. Because if you're facing south, then it's going to be anti-clockwise. If you're facing north, it's going to be the same as everybody else. It depends on your orientation from your geographic position. That's all that is. Silly.
It's fun to say, except no, it
Charles
doesn't.
play that one.
Every single person who is standing in the northern hemisphere, regardless of which direction they are facing, will view the stars rotating counterclockwise. And same in the southern hemisphere. Every single person in the southern hemisphere can watch the sky at the same time and look in different directions at the same time, and they'll all observe the stars rotating clockwise.
No, again, you're misrepresenting the truth there. The truth is that you are. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, those who are in the southern hemisphere, right, hemisphere, depending on which way they orientated themselves, will determine which way the stars will appear to rotate.
10 cameras
the stars
and point them in every different direction in the northern hemisphere. And every single camera
Yeah, stop
will
the money
see
communism, bro. We're not interested, so move along.
Thank you and your communism. Okay.
Yeah.
A real fucked up idea of communism, but all right.
You're a communist, 100%. Yeah.
Communist, that's right. We've talked about absolutely nothing about a foreign system of government known as communism.
It is. Communism is subversion, is control of the education system, it's war, atheism, attacking morals, stupid arguments, imprisoning people. This is what you guys are doing. You're pushing Marxism and communism. That's what it is. Whether you know it, or you've been indoctrinated into the education system, or you're just flat out communist.
Way to kill the room.
All this happening on a flat earth, ladies and gentlemen. Bear in mind that all this is happening with that one shred of proof globe ball that you're meant to live on. 24,901 miles circumference, the radius of which is 3959. That's 3,959 miles. Okay, and we are not able to measure a single degree of that. We don't experience that on this earth. We don't consider it in construction, weapons of mass destruction, for example, building bridges, railway lines. None of this stuff is considered. On an aeroplane, it's a horizontal linear line. The same with the ships, same with the submarines when they use their torpedoes. They don't factor Earth's curvature into anything at all because the Earth is not curving. The Earth isn't a ball.
People in Australia
we're not a ball in space. Thank you. We're not a ball in space. They can't prove that. We can prove to you day in, day out. We've been doing it for 10 years straight. The heliocentric model and the heliocentrists have taken a 10-year beating, a 10-year onslaught of unceasing, unwavering, flat earth truth, and they don't like it. And that's what this is the result. Desperate people. Why this? Why that? Why that? Why this? Why that? Why that? Why? And you give them the answers. Why? You're still getting.
That's because
what I mean?
flat earthers can't answer any questions. They make claims because they don't understand how to do math. And they don't understand what the atmosphere is.
That's just baseless claims. I'm a flat earther. I'm right here. I'm answering your questions. I'm answering your questions properly, correctly, coherently, and you are incoherent because you don't understand it. So it's you heliocentrists that are just pushing out lies, and you're trying to make us look like we don't know what we're talking about when it's you, when you can't even prove the curvature of your Earth. Where is it? Why are we still asking after like 10 years, over 100 years even? Where is that curvature? No human being who's listening right now in the YouTube, Twitter X, Rockfin, Rumble, none of those people in there have seen the curvature of the Earth. None of them. And you have never seen it yourself and you can't present it. But yet you're asking why this, why that, why that. Go and research your globe properly and bring it here for us to see. Go ahead. We're waiting.
Exactly. So, and I've already pointed this out multiple times. So we're a pizza that's not in space? Is that? Even if we were under a dome on a pizza planet, would the pizza planet not be in space?
No, it wouldn't according to them. The Earth is like the floor of the universe.
Where are we? The Earth is the
Earth is everything.
All there is, right?
What you have to do is prove what you're thinking. Go and prove. That's all you've got to do. Bring the proof. Okay? Don't go on like you're acting as if you've proven everything and now you're trying to say we're wrong. Bring your proof. Bring your globe here now.
That 2 + 2
Hurry
is
up.
4?
I'm not going to help you to do that. You do it.
And it's been presented many times. It's just Jin refuses to look at the evidence.
What's been presented many times?
Nothing has
What's the
been
best evidence
presented to me.
Pizza Planet?
Yeah.
Keep the
Yeah,
planet
but
under the
Jin
dome, not in
said,
space. Are we on the back of a turtle too, held up by pillars?
Stephen, what's your
Is there,
best
is there
evidence of a
windows in
globe?
Is there windows in the firmament so you can open them up and let water in? And all the stars are just lamps hanging out in the firmament. That way, angels can throw them at demons when the demons get too close to the firmament.
No human being actually knows what a star is, and any human being claiming to know the individual is misleading you, because how would they know? How would that individual know what a star is? Have they actually gone up into space to touch the star composite? We don't know what they are. So we don't pretend to. We're the one.
Go up into space and touch a
Flat
star.
earthers are the ones that are first to say we don't know what the sun's composite is. We do not know what the moon is. We don't know what the stars are. And those planets, whatever we're being told, is all theories. And that's what we say. So people know that we're not coming from a disingenuous, deceptive position. It's all about honesty and integrity.
Okay? Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of-
Thousands of years of human experience mapping the sky, the planets, and their orbits over and over. And this is
doesn't
why.
prove the shape
This
of
is
the
why.
earth. Does not prove the shape of the earth that we live on. Okay, so
Okay,
you might
so
be looking
all
to
of
the
the other
stars, but you need to measure the
astronomical
ground
bodies.
under your feet. It is not rotating, it is not curving, and there is no way you can be in a vacuum with air
You don't
pressure
feel-
without a container, because
You
you're in
don't
a
feel
vacuum.
the
You're
curve.
going to need
You don't
containment.
feel the.
Okay,
Don't
that's
feel the
a
movement.
second law of thermodynamics
Bullshit,
violation.
man.
Otherwise,
I really can't stand flat Earth arguments
basic-
because they're so
three
stupid.
basic
You
foundational
don't feel the
premises that
movement
you can
of the
never
Earth
ever surmount. It is
because you are.
unsurmountable. What I've just said, what's that? Irrefutable.
No, it's
You cannot destroy that.
unintelligible what
The
you just said.
heliocentric model dies right there. Lack of curvature.
Do you even know what the heliocentric model is?
Nope.
Geocentrism and heliocentric models both use spherical Earths, by the way. And the question that those folks were trying to answer at the
Don't
time
exist, by the way.
was,
That don't
is the
exist, by
Earth
the way. That
was the Earth
what's
the
his name?
center of the?
Nicolaus Copernicus
Gosh, damn,
didn't
dude.
want to release his work in progress. Okay, because it was a work
You know
in
why?
progress. Didn't want it
Yeah, why?
released. But when he died, from
Why?
1543 onwards, it was released as fact. And then the Jesuits and the Christianity religion has been pushing this globe for the last 182 years. The last 482 years, it's been pushed as fact without any proof of it at all. That's your problem, not mine.
Plenty of evidence, though.
Okay.
Ridiculous, ladies and gents, when you start to look into it. How it all,
You know,
all
it would
unravels.
be great if somebody could stay on a topic that's like that makes any kind of sense whatsoever and elaborate on anything that they say instead of just making claims and bouncing to the next thing and then just talking about shit and throwing things out as if it's
Yeah,
relevant in any way,
that's
shape,
you
or
lot.
form.
That's you lot.
Yeah, no.
That is what you lot
I've
do.
said
That's
multiple
what you
times,
lot are
but
doing. We are
thousands of
coherent in
years.
what we have described to you.
What?
You've asked us questions, we've
I don't
answered
want
them
you to
coherently,
describe
and
anything
we're
to me.
still getting why,
You know what this is?
like a baby.
It's all
Okay?
Bible talk. Here's what the
Well,
Bible
that's your
No,
first
says.
time
Let me
saying
tell you what it
I'm
means.
not religious. I'm not religious. I'm from the Islamic
Bit of quote
religion.
me, bro.
That's what I was born under. So I'm not a Christian. Okay, but even in the Quran, it's mentioned that the Earth is flat anyway. So you know,
Right.
it's not religious. Flat
Both of those
Earth
books
is
are
not
wrong.
a religious movement. It's made up of people from all
Yes,
walks
it
of
is.
life. So it's not religious. There is a religious component to it, and it's
Yes, it
welcome
is.
and it's correct.
It's
Nothing
100%
wrong with that.
religious.
Nothing wrong with that. So I don't know what you're going on about. Nothing wrong with the
Because
Christians
if that was true,
having a right to be on the flat Earth. Every right, just like all the other religions. What are you going on about now? Seeking to divide, are you? Seeking to
because
divide everyone. See, heliocentrists.
I'm not
Seeking
seeking to
divide.
do
They don't
anything
unite people, they try to
other
divide
than
people.
talk about
That's
obvious,
separation.
known. You
Separation.
know what, man?
Yeah.
I let you
You're
guys
wrong,
talk.
sir. You're wrong.
I let you guys talk.
Wrong.
Okay? So instead of
No,
listening to a
you
damn
don't, because
thing,
when we're talking,
just
you're talking
fake,
whilst
man.
I'm talking, actually. That's
This
what's been
isn't a
going on for the
conversation, bro.
past
This is you
35,
telling
40
me how the
minutes.
Earth's
I've
flat
been
because
talking, and I've always heard your voice when I'm talking. That's ridiculous. So don't be complaining. Don't complain at all.
Sorry.
You don't let us talk.
Who interrupted
You actually
who?
interrupt.
You've done nothing but interrupt him. What are you talking about?
I don't interrupt anybody unless they start talking
once
silly.
again, thousands of years of human experience. People have known the size and shape of the Earth for thousands of years, regardless of any country, regardless of any government, blah, blah, blah. Thousands of years. This is why we can predict things that we can predict, like solar and lunar eclipses. Very, very accurately, by the way.
That's post-diction. Post-diction, not prediction. Post-diction. Everything has been observed for thousands of years, apparently. So obviously you can predict. Know the pattern, and when you've seen the patterns over the years, it's easy to predict. Now, that's not a magnificent wow. We can predict. I can say it's going to be Friday tomorrow. In 2 days' time, it'll be a Sunday. Do you know what I mean? I mean, come on. Sorry, Saturday, sorry. So, let's not be going above our stations that we don't need to be. Okay, I'm not wowed by your predictions of your eclipses and that, because it's nothing magnificent. It's not. And again, it's not proving that the Earth is a globe. It's a problem.
It's one of
Face the
many
big giraffe in the
observations
room.
that
Face it.
look. The reality is that every single person in and out of this chat this whole time that I've been in here could prove this to themselves very simply, very easily, actually, by
Well, go ahead. Tell everybody.
very
Tell
simple
everybody. Go ahead.
middle school observations and experiments. But instead of doing that, they would rather make believe religious nonsense and dogma, because that's what your book says. Well, that's not what reality says. Objective reality.
Actually, every flat earther goes out to
Instead of doing
confirm.
that,
They don't just hold on to the book.
instead of
The reason they
understanding
like
the
the book, because it confirms
see what I'm
their
saying?
observations and their experiences. You see, that's why they like the book, and they're moving closer to God through Christianity, for example, or through Islam, or through Judea. Okay, the Torah. Okay, these are people who feel that they want to get closer to the Creator of the earth. It's not a crime. They're not harming anybody, and they're correct in their behavior. Cognitive goodness. That is perfect. Perfect logical behavior.
Between those three religions, they're not harming anyone? Really?
They're not harming anybody when they're talking about the flat earth. When we're talking about the flat
okay.
earth,
All right, thanks for clarifying
they're
that, because I was going to say,
hurting
the last
anybody.
2,200 years of human experience disagrees with you strongly on them not harming each other, but okay.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the flat earth and the current resurgence of the flat earth and the Christian connection component to that, made up a small percentage, but they're there. That's what I'm
Christians
discussing.
will believe anything
I'm
you
not
tell
talking
them.
about other parts
If
of
you just
history
tell them that it
where there
says
was the
so in the
Crusades or
Bible, they'll
whatever.
believe you.
I'm not concerned with that at this point. We're just talking about flat earthers today and the position they're holding with their Bibles, which match their experiences and their investigation and results. That's what we're talking about.
99% of
You seem to
Christians that
be
I've talked to
wanting
about
to
the Bible
divide and
don't
create an
even know
image
that book.
of
They've never
Christians
read it.
who are crazy, perhaps, or violent. Well, it's not my position at this moment. Okay, stick on the topic matter. Try and stick on the topic matter. Yeah. No, is that all you got? You've run out, have you? You've run out of energy, run out of steam. What, you've blown a gasket or something? Oh, there you go then. Didn't CBR one.
Oh, see, this is the thing. No one in this room, since I've been in here, is interested in an actual conversation with anything tangible or intelligent to say. All anybody wants to do
Lartech
is
tried
sit here
to
and
do that,
argue.
but you just kept asking why. I came in, I noticed it wasn't going forward, so I tried to help, but I see that it's going forward, and you're still making wild accusations. We're having a conversation, we've asked your questions, but you have this antagonistic approach, and you try to character assassinate the flat earthers, demeaning, devaluing. You're not uplifting anything. You're not making the conversation conducive, because you're always attacking the character, but not the problem you've got.
Attacking anything.
You see? Of course you are.
You're
bringing up stories of 2,000 years they've known the globe, but the globe don't exist. It was the other way around. It's for 2,000 years plus that they've known the earth is flat. It's the actual true story. That's the actual true story. The globe cannot be measured today with today's modern technologies. We can't measure to any degree of curvature. So how could they have done that 2,000 years ago?
Yes, actually,
but
we
today, in the
can.
modern world that we live in, we can't measure the curvature of the earth. But they did it back in 2,000 years
That's
ago
right.
with almost no technology.
No, a lot longer than 2,000 years ago. And yes, they did measure
It's a
the
good
size
dream
and shape
you
of
got
the
there,
Earth
son.
accurately, by
It's
the
a
way.
good story,
And
a
that would
good
be a
dream,
much
yeah,
more.
good story,
It would be a
and a
much
good
more
fantasy. Good luck.
fruitful conversation to have, actually. Trying to discern how the hell they did that, because not only did they do that, they also just happened to lay out their civilizations in line with the stars and the Earth.
Well, tell everybody how they did it. Why don't you tell us how they did that? We're listening.
That would be a great thing to know, yeah. Except we don't know. But they did.
That's right, you don't know. But remember this,
how
ladies and gentlemen. If you're
hold
given
on,
the
man.
specifications, something like a
Here
dress,
you go.
a suit, pair of
Here you go.
shoes,
The
a
Dogon.
car,
You know who the
right? You can go online, check out
You
the
know
model
who
you
the
want to buy the
Dogon
car,
tribe is?
and all the specifications you can verify and confirm. Okay?
You know
and the
who the
suit and the
Dogon
dress,
tribe is?
you can measure it and check it, and then you put it on, and you know it's your size. Yes? Okay. The same can be said and must apply to the globe with the specifications they've given us. They've told us it's 24,901 mile circumference. And remember, circumference means it's a circle. Okay, an oblate spheroid circle. So it's got to have curvature. Okay, then there's a radius of that, which is 3,959 mile radius. 8 inches per mile square, part of the Pythagorean theorem for the curvature formula to measure curvature. And when we go out into nature now, out into the real world, we are unable to measure that curvature with today's modern technologies. We cannot measure the curvature of the Earth. Why? Because the Earth isn't curving. That is why. It's a horizontal, linear, stationary realm plane is where we live. There's no curvature there. Okay? So the idea that they could measure curvature 2,000 years ago, that's a joke. Because how comes we can't measure it today?
Bro, who the Dogon tribe are? It's a tribe in Africa. How did the Dogon tribe know? You know Sirius? You know that star? But right next to it is a little star called Sirius B that you can't see with the naked eye. Yet, the Dogon tribe not only knew about that star that you can't observe with the naked eye, but also knew that there's two planets that revolve around that star. And their creation story is something to the effect of, well, the destroyer god comes from the one planet, and the creator god comes from the other planet around that particular star in that particular part in the sky, and we can't see it, but it's there. And guess what? They were right. How the hell would they know that?
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have any faith in what we've just been listening to. And you'll notice that we're talking about the shape of the earth, but they keep going to the stars. Planets with this god over there, that god over there. Planets, that creator, that god. No, look at the ground, look at earth where you live, and try and prove the curvature on the earth. Stop looking at the stars. For the stars cannot help you show the shape of the earth. You've got to measure it to confirm. Please speak to that. Stars this, stars that. That's not going to help you. Can you understand? Trying to have a conversation here. We're looking for a methodology by which you can prove to yourself that the earth is a globe. Get on with it. Stop mentioning the stars. Go ahead. The silence is deafening, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Stop talking about the stars, but he can't prove the earth is a globe on Earth, where we live. There you go.
You could prove it to yourself if you really wanted to. But instead, what people like to do is like to believe make-believe. That they make-believe.
You're still not addressing the problem you've got. Stop telling lies. Stop making baseless claims about the flat earthers. I'm a flat earther. I'm telling you that the earth isn't a globe. How did you prove it is the problem you've got. You have the burden of proof. You're not proving anything by attacking the flat earthers' character. That's not going to help you. That's not showing the measurements, right? If we can prove it to ourselves, show us how we can prove it to ourselves. Show us that. Explain, at least. Thank you.
Looking to the stars can be a methodology to see what you're standing on.
What I've been trying to do this whole time. You got nobody in here is even remotely interested. So, because you don't want to prove it to yourself, you would rather sit in a chat room.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's another baseless claim. I am sorry to interrupt you, and I mean that sincerely. But it's another baseless claim. And the person who said you look to the stars, no, you do not. Yeah. A carpet layer doesn't look at the ceiling when he's about to lay down the carpet on the floor. He measures the floor. You've got to measure the floor. You've got to measure the floor. You can't be looking to the stars to know that the earth is a globe. That's the wrong methodology completely. It's not logical.
No,
it's asinine to common sense. Okay? So yes, we want to prove that the earth is a globe. You're meant to be telling us how, not attacking the flat earthers. You could do it to yourself, but you want to look the other way, which is rubbish.
You should already all know this.
No? Okay, carry on. We're listening. Yeah. What should we know?
It's kind of like, should I have to tell you how to read a compass? In which way north is?
So now you're talking about a compass. Yes, go ahead. We know how to read compasses.
I have to tell you that?
I was in the army after all, but carry on. Carry on.
You see how you just can't not fucking interrupt one thing that I say before I can even say it? But I have to tell you how to read a watch. No, I shouldn't, because you're a grown-ass adult, right? You should be able to work these things out for yourself. And if you have paid attention and you knew how to do the experiments yourself, you could prove it to yourself. You don't need anybody to convince you. That's how science works.
Ladies and gentlemen that are listening in the YouTube live stream, Twitter X, Ruskin, Rumble, if you're listening to this episode, you can see that the heliocentrist globe believer is not giving you any material that you can use so that you can actually learn something. He's not even aware that you are listening. He doesn't even care that there are people who want to learn. And we're asking you, as I represent those people, what is the methodology do we use to measure the curvature of the earth so we know we're actually a globe?
They elect you?
Can you do that? There are people listening. You're acting like you haven't got any idea and you're running from the challenge. Can you please address the request that I put down for you? Get on with it for the umpteenth time.
What would you like me to tell you? That the earth is not flat? And that we don't live under a dome? Is that what you want me to tell you? I've been trying to tell you this. I pointed out a bunch of things. But you're
not telling the listeners who are listening again in the Rumble, Twitter, X, YouTube,
depends on how long they've been in here listening, I suppose.
Facebook. They're all listening to you. You're not coming across with anything that is substantial, tangible, that the people can use and run off and confirm. You're not doing that. You're still obfuscating and character assassinating the flat earthers, which is not proving your case. All you need to do to shut me up is to prove to us how you went about proving that the earth is a globe. Get on with it.
Yeah. Well, if you'd stop talking long enough to
Well, the only reason why I was talking, but you keep asking,
And
I can't help you. I'm not going to help you prove your globe. You've got to prove
stand
it
in the
to me and the
northern
listeners.
hemisphere.
Hurry up now. Come on.
Stand in the northern hemisphere and observe the sky. It rotates in a counterclockwise. Doesn't matter where you are in the northern hemisphere, and it doesn't matter what direction
Ladies
you
and
look.
gentlemen, have you noticed that we're back at the stars again? We're back at the stars again. We want to know the shape of the Earth, but we're back at the stars, looking at rotation. That does not prove
No, it's
shape.
one observation.
Rotation does not prove shape. I repeat, rotation and spinning does not prove a shape.
How does
we're
the
talking
pizza
about the
planet spin, then?
physicality of your globe. You're not
How
going to
does the
look to the
pizza planet
stars.
spin?
That is not how you're going to learn it. Sorry,
Is
that
the
does
pizza
not apply
planet
here.
on pillars
Try
on the back
again.
of a turtle?
You just failed. That's 1-0
Please
to the
explain.
flat earthers. We are leading 1-0 at the moment. Actually, 200-0 really.
Oh yeah, you're
Time
leading, right?
seconds so far. Get on with it.
You're leading
And
in the
don't be looking
bullshit
to the
department.
stars. How did
Does
you
the
measure that
flat Earth-
curvature on the Earth?
Does the flat Earth sit on the turtle, on pillars, in not space?
So there
If
you
it
have it,
does,
ladies and
how
gentlemen.
does it spin?
Just trolling. This is
How does it
trolling.
rotate? No, I'm
This
asking
is
you.
trolling, ladies and gentlemen.
Not
You see,
trolling,
and you know
guy.
why they're trolling?
Asking.
Because that's all they've got left. These are desperate people. Desperate people.
Yes,
All they could do is
desperate
troll,
people trying to
try to
get flat
character
earthers to
assassinate.
explain
This is the
literally
tactics that they
anything.
use. The tactics of the deceivers. Okay, because that's what we have here. Someone trying to deceive you that you're on a globe and he's unable to prove to you how you can prove to yourself that you are on a globe. He can't do that. So he's left trolling
There's
the flat
oodles of
earthers,
ways of
trying to
doing that, except
gaslight us, or better still, character
gaslight.
assassinate. Go to the stars, go to the stars. And when I'm telling you can't go up there because that's not proving anything, this is what you get. Behavior like that. Still waiting though. Still waiting hope.
I'm still waiting for you to explain to me how the pizza planet spins and rotates in any ways. Or is it sitting on pillars?
We're not number one, ladies and gentlemen, we're not a planet. For planet, translated from Latin to English, it means wandering star. Earth is not a star, Earth is not wandering. And secondly, when you look at the planets up in the sky, the things that we call planets, that we don't know what they are, none of them, we don't know what those objects are.
They're all
We are
round.
not similar because we have life. We have an ecosystem, we have air pressure, we've got fruits, vegetables, animals, pistachio nuts, ice cream, dogs, if you like, and your peanut and your hamburgers. You understand? We have life going on Earth. So we cannot be considered a planet. That's a false equivalence fallacy. We're not a pizza disc in space, and it's not the flat earth's position. We've never put that up. We've never said that.
What
That's
exactly
not our
is the flat
position
Earth
at all.
position? Exactly.
Okay.
Other than the Earth is flat,
Yes,
what's the flat Earth position? Please enlighten me.
Well, basically, the flat earth position is we're not living on a globe. Okay. Now you say you're living on a globe. What's the reverse? The burden of proof reversal is what he's trying to do here, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't have to do that. We're just waiting for this character to teach you, the listeners who have got precious time, how to measure and prove to yourselves you're on a globe. Okay, that's all we're doing, and he's wasting your time. As you can
What is
see.
the flat Earth position?
Morning, gent.
For fuck's sake, dude.
Morning to you, sir.
Somebody in here made any kind of sense whatsoever.
Can
someone explain to me the flat Earth
nothing but obfuscating, character assassinating the flat earthers, and looking to the stars to try and prove that the Earth is a globe. That's all he's been doing. He hasn't measured, he hasn't presented any methodology by which he proved the Earth was a globe here on Earth using the Earth. Can't do it.
And this is dumbass shit that flat earthers do. Just sit here and
No,
talk
there's no
about
need to
how I
use foul
character
language. No need to use
assassinated
foul language.
Well,
It's not dumbass, brown stuff. It's what it's pedocentric buffoonery is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen.
So-
Pedocentric buffoonery. That's all we've got going
You're
on.
you're
explain to me the flat Earth
Nothing
position.
else.
I know you've done some
Anybody.
You've done a fair amount of research about into this, Jim. What in your opinion is the moon? If you were going to sort of like try and pin it down in any way, is there anything we can sort of work?
You know, from my 63 years of life, my first answer is I completely do not know what the moon is, although I observe the phases of the moon. And when I look through a telescope, it appears to be a rocky spherical in places, but I can't prove that, can I? You see, that's why I say I don't know. That's it. That's all I can do. And that's the end of that. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I've asked the man speaking, by what methodology did he use to prove the globe to himself without going to the stars? Because that's not going to help you. Here on Earth, we're here on Earth. I'm nearly finished. Here on Earth, with today's modern technologies, we're not able to measure a single degree of curvature. Okay, so what did he do to prove that and achieve that? That's what we've been asking for now for 50 minutes, and we've got nothing but character assassination of the flat earthers, obfuscating, and just being silly. Really
unbelievable.
Sorry.
The irony.
Yeah, well, he hasn't got any. He hasn't got any curvature proofs. Is that what you're saying?
It's the old-fashioned, the old-fashioned, dead horse. It's not going to run. He hasn't got any proof of that. But we live in hope. We live in hope.
No, the thing is, have you got any curvature proofs with which you can convince Jim?
Yeah, I've said a whole bunch, man. But nobody, no, you got like just want to talk about flat Earth, how we don't live on a globe, but you can't explain what that is, where we are, and you can't predict literally anything. You can't explain any astronomical anything. You can't explain the seasons or anything
You
else.
see what I
Literally
mean? It's a
anything that's
character
observable
assassination
from
on
the
the
Earth.
flat Earth. The question was
See,
to
once
him,
again,
what methodology did he use? And this is how he behaved. Attacks the flat Earth. We can't do this. We can't do that. The question is, how did you measure the curvature of the Earth? That's what we've been asking now for 50 minutes. And all you've done is try to character assassinate the flat Earthers. That's not the way. Please prove your case. What's going on?
The problem is
this is one of the most, the flat Earth conversations are one of the most just waste of time conversations I've ever tried to have.
Then why are you here?
Well, there's flat earthers and flat earthers.
Hold on, man. In fact, I asked him a question because he's saying is the most ridiculous conversation and waste of time. So why are you here?
Well, because I was actually hoping for some meaningful conversation about, I don't know, literally any astronomical or otherwise observations that I've been waiting years and years and years to hear one compelling thing out of one flat earther's mouth.
What are you talking about?
Except there isn't any.
You haven't done any. You haven't said anything. All you said is just gibberish.
Really? I've said a bunch of stuff actually, except
there are words coming out, but you're not making sense of what are you here.
Made sense to me.
Oh yeah, can you repeat it?
Yeah, he's looking for some sort of explanation of anything to do with the world from a flat earther.
No, he ain't said anything about the word. He said about astronomy. He said astronomical observation.
Oh, that's one line. No. You know, see, this is one of the problems. Is you
this
take
is one of the
one
problems.
line.
Don't tell me what the problem is. Tell me why are you here? We don't focus on flat Earth, on the stars. We focus on Earth.
That's one line of observations among many others.
Okay, you observe the skies. What else now? What you gonna do with the skies and the stars? Exactly
nothing. I'm still waiting.
That exactly came out of your mouth when I asked you what are you going to do with the stars in the skies observation. What are you going to do? And nothing came out of your mouth when I asked you. So
what is the flat
that's why I
Earth
say
position?
exactly, and you repeat it. Yes, exactly that. So
planet.
exactly nothing.
You're kind of ruining it.
So is the pizza planet in space, orbiting the sun, or is everything just orbiting us? This is the difference between the heliocentric model and the geocentric model. And the question that they were trying to answer, because for a long time, for limited amount of information, it really looked like everything might be orbiting.
You're not answering the question, are you? What methodology do you have that proves to you that the Earth is a globe here on Earth, not into the stars, because the stars don't prove shape. Looking at the stars does not prove a shape.
So does the pizza
can you now
planet
get on with it
orbit
for the
the sun or
umpteenth
not?
time?
Pizza
Ladies
planet.
and gentlemen,
So now
in
you're
the
a
YouTube
straw
live
man.
stream, in Rumble and
What do you want me to say? The flat Earth? Okay, does the flat Earth orbit the sun or not?
Yeah, can you listen to this heliocentrist unable to prove to you how you can prove to yourselves how the Earth is a globe, so you know for sure. He has failed you for the last 1 hour now. 1 hour plus, he's failed you. Still waiting.
I haven't failed anybody.
Question still stands. You
I'm not
failed.
here
You're a
to.
failure. You failed. 1 hour, 10 minutes roughly, and you haven't come across with the answer. I'm still asking the same question. Okay? So you're wasting everybody's time. Why do you come here? The question was.
I'm wasting everybody's time, huh?
You're wasting everybody's time. The question put to you and your heliocentric model, tell us the methodology. You can't do it. There you are. You failed. You're a failure.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to explain middle school math to grown-ass adults.
You're still not proving anything. It's another ad hom and another attack. Not proving your globe, sir. You retarded reprobate, yellow belly coward. See what I mean? I can start to attack you too. Now get on with it.
Jim,
that's just stupid shit to say.
Do you consider yourself an honest person?
For fuck's sake, man.
Jim, do you consider yourself an honest person?
Why would you ask such a stupid question?
Because I've heard you saying here, I'm not going to get it verbatim, but I've heard you saying here and in Gems that there's nothing that a glober could present to you that would actually convince you it's a globe, so you don't bother looking at what they present. So in the interest of not
correct, that is absolutely. But you did hear me say unless it's a video of you showing us how you measured the curvature of the Earth. I always say that. That's my position. Okay. So I'm asking that very thing. How did you prove that the Earth was a globe? That's what I want to see you do. He's failed so far. My position hasn't changed. There's no material that I want to see but that. I haven't changed my position. So I'm a very honest person. I'm a man with honor and integrity, and my position hasn't changed. I'm not a liar.
That doesn't sound like integrity or honesty to me.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know what it was. If you're thinking the Earth is a globe, you're misinforming everybody. That's lying, misinforming, no integrity, no honesty. Disaster, dishonesty, what it is. So the question still stands. Man who's now very quiet, can't hear him now. Has he disappeared? Has he blown a gasket? Yeah? Oil leak somewhere?
I haven't gone
still
any.
here, Jen. I'm still here.
Think I'm intimidated by any of this bullshit? No.
You're
no,
still
I'm really
here, but
not.
there's no answers coming forward. It's forthcoming.
I could reveal the secrets of the universe to you right now, and you would just come back with the same.
I'm not interested in the fucking universe. It doesn't exist. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the shape of your ball Earth that you think you live on and how you manage to prove it to yourself here on Earth using the surface of the Earth. Get on with it.
How about you do what one flat earther, no flat earther has ever done? Just tell me what the flat Earth position is. We live on a flat Earth. Okay, check. We live under a dome. Okay, check. Does the sun? Oh, you did. I think you did say that you don't think that the Earth orbits the sun, correct? The flat Earth, excuse me.
Yes, the sky carousels above.
Okay, so those are just lights in the sky. They're seemingly just there to
sure.
entertain us, I guess.
No, it's the clock in the sky, mate. Work it out. It's the thing you live your life by. The sun up, sun down. You look for the 24 hours, you get the average point, then you get the seasons.
Right. Why 24 hours? What is the flat Earth doing?
Dude, it's like the universal number. Like this is just the world we've been sort of born into. It's no different
because
to
the Earth is round and it revolves one time on its axis in about 24 hours.
No, the sun was set in motion long before you and I were ever considered to be like a thing.
No kidding.
So, yeah.
I'm well aware of that. Thanks for pointing that out, though.
Well, that's just the time that was set, dude.
Okay, so is the flat Earth in space or not?
In space,
the only thing that exists, and the sky clock is just the sky clock.
As far as we know, yes, this realm. As far as this, like, yeah, as far as we kind of like most people generally consider, this is it.
So Earth and nothing else, huh? Earth and lights.
It's not that there's nothing else. It's just like you can't go there. It's not a place you can go land on. Just as like, I mean, you can't go up to the moon and walk around, can you? Not unless you're like protected by this mad, like, man-invented spacesuit. I think, wasn't it a lingerie company or something that did the first spacesuit? Or maybe like Victoria's Secret or something. I don't know what the game was, but yeah, like you just can't go there, man. You can't go there as a human being without like these so-called man-made tools and objects to get you up there. So
yeah, that's true. Okay. And yeah, our bodies weren't
designed for that.
Survive
evolved for that. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a contentious point.
Yeah, dude. Whether you like it or not, evolution is an absolute fact on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Absolute proven fact. What's your nominal reason for like believing that? Do you think that I can go
believe it? No.
Consummate with a banana and come up with something else, or like what's going to happen?
No, I don't have to believe it. It's called the fossil record. History of the Earth is etched in the landscape out there.
Things change over time.
Yeah,
no worries.
According to you guys, science doesn't.
No kidding.
All right, I'll go next. I'll go next. Go ahead, Rick.
Go for it, bro.
Yeah. So what was your proof? Oh yeah, old things. There's old things on the Earth, therefore evolution. Okay, cool, dude. Biblically speaking, if you want to go back through that, I don't generally refer to that, but there's old stuff. Now there's different new stuff. Cool. That's not a proof of evolution.
So the thing is, if you science, evolution is 100% fact. Did you hear me say I was going next, or you know a lot about the science stuff? You can't even follow along with the convo. If it is 100% fact, that means you'd be going against all of mainstream science by saying science proves things 100%.
Now, as far as we understand life on this planet, things change. Yeah.
And so is that 100%? Is it science? Is it science and is it? So not 100%.
99% of all of the species that have ever existed on this planet are extinct.
Dude,
okay, so if it's 100%, go ahead, Rick.
No, Jeremy, hit it. You want to stay on your topic, and I'm about to deviate, so please, you got the floor.
I gotta go get some coffee or something first. I'll be back. I can't.
Dude,
I'm
okay, as far
trying to
as
fight
far as the
with you and this guy to get in. Go ahead.
The fossil
far as
record
the
is vast,
fossil records are concerned, man,
unbelievably vast.
dude,
It's also
dude,
incomplete.
This guy thinks it's his turn to go again. That's what I mean. I can't even talk to these dudes. Go ahead, Rick. This is all you, man.
dude, they were coming up with like I saw today. It's like on I can't remember the guy's YouTube thing, but he's a nice amicable guy, globing technology rah. But he admitted that he sort of pointed out a fact just in his video that these cryptids, like mermaids, like this, like a bit of the mythology of the mermaid, was back in the day, and they were using skeletons, and they were piecing together like this skeleton and that skeleton, and they were making this sort of taxidermy sort of skeletal structures. It's like an art piece, and then like people just started calling them real. And that's not to say that all the fossil records are like that, but holy Jesus, dude! Like all the like the pterosaurs, all the like terrible lizards. Yeah, dude. Like they could all just be made up in other things.
No, there's. Don't get me wrong. Literally anything can be exploited, including science. Okay, but that doesn't mean that for the last 500 years of archaeology, geology
Why do you want to?
is
Why do you
all
want to
fraud.
believe in the standard?
I don't want to believe anything. That's the whole point. You don't have to believe it. You can go dig the shit out of the ground if you want. Prove it to yourself. History of the Earth is etched in the landscape. It's laying up. That's how we know literally everything that we've discerned.
His story.
Fascinating.
His story. That's not his story, bro. But history is a different thing to archaeology, right? And the interpretation, like his story, is written by the victor.
Yeah, no kidding. And you obviously knew the difference, though, didn't you? Geology, history of the Earth, not who conquered who and blah blah blah. Some crap written by man.
So you're going to have to get down to the carbon dating techniques then at that point, right?
There's multiple dating techniques, yeah. Carbon dating being one of them. Measuring radioactive isotopes, yeah, and the rate of decay, sure. That's one. There's a whole slew of dating techniques, yeah.
I get and appreciate it. It's kind of really hard to get your head around the compartmentalization that's occurred within the nature of the interpretation of archaeology and all these things. Like, they've done a really good job. But I think that they've just picked up on certain techniques and tools that they can use to sort of claim certain carbon dating, and it all feeds back into their system of interpretation about the nature and history of this world.
No, it's not interpretation.
It's all coming out of these major universities.
Not interpretation. No. See, the problem is people don't want to believe it. Because
but your curriculum is
they want to believe make believe and Bible dogma and shit like that instead. So if you
I'm not invoking the Bible, man. If you think your enemy is the Bible, I'm sorry, but your enemy is a little bit more diverse than that. Or not your enemy, but like your provocateur, like whatever I am to you. You know, the heterodox way of thinking compared to the standard and the status quo.
Everybody in here is my equal. That's what you are to me.
I appreciate that, but like we're thinking about this problem differently.
Sure, and that's fine. That's okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Bro, in the carbon dating, they pre-selected everything, and then they come up with some mechanism, okay? And it's giving us certain dates, but the dates are not reliable. It's not trustworthy. Like even the same samples you will give, they will get to a closure, okay? They will give you a closure dating, but it's not provable because we can't find the history based on something, right? Based on carbon decay or something, because we don't know in the history how carbon was behaving. You don't know in the 12th century what carbon was behaving, okay? Based on today's thing, okay? So it's not reliable at all.
You can watch, which is what we've been doing for the last 250 years or so.
No, carbon dating is less than 100 years. It's less than 100 years.
That's what I'm saying. You can observe the rate of decay of radioactive isotopes.
Yeah, it's not provable. I know it's not provable because you guys say science. It's not provable because science. Can I get in, please?
Okay, go ahead.
Trying to get in, bro. I know this other. I'm not talking to you. The other guy. You do not follow the combo at all. It can't be provable. What the guy said is not provable. It can't be provable because you guys say science doesn't prove things.
No, it's not because of that science doesn't prove that thing. Yeah, it's a true statement that science doesn't prove anything. But when we talk about the carbon dating, then just imagine if someone have a rate of decay of carbon-14 atoms. Okay, so we don't know like how the carbon-14 atom was behaving in the 10th century. It's just it's just guesswork. Okay, if it's behaving like this in that period of time, then we can go all throughout the history. Okay, so this is wrong. That's why they have pre-selected some things like, okay, this is our method, and this method will give this thing 12 million years. Okay, so they have a certain method and they just use that procedure again and again. That's why some dinosaurs will give you that kind of weird rating, but others will.
Well, A, that's not true. Oh, you're not done? You're done, or?
It's almost done. Like, you can't prove, you don't have the whole data of 5,700 years or something that they say it's just one cycle. So no one has tested that. No one has observed that throughout the history. So just because of last 100 years, you can't just make the history of thousands of years.
Well, A, that's not true. You can prove things with science. However, these guys think you can't prove anything with science because they're running around doing pseudoscience like shit like this.
Pseudoscience. Okay.
That's when you don't stick to the scientific method.
Yeah. No. The science is very particular.
It is very particular. They made a whole method out, and you guys don't stick to it, and you make shit up. That's why you had to. That's why all of sciences had to run around now saying science doesn't prove things. Where if you stick to the method, it absolutely does prove things.
Oh, it actually does. Well,
it doesn't prove anything. Then what are you sitting here arguing for? You don't know. You don't know anything. Then you don't know. You can't sit here and argue for anything because you don't know. If you don't know 100%, you don't know, and I can prove that with 2 decks of cards.
I mean, can you cite something that science has absolutely definitely proved? As a matter of interest.
I'm not talking to you, Pazza.
One simple question like that, and you got shirty with me for one question like that.
How to take
what was your question? What was your question, Pazza? Pazza, what was your question to me specifically?
Just so give because obviously he's coming from a conventional, a mainstream notion of what a scientific proof is. Can you, in the framework that you just described, give an example of something that science has definitely proved?
Do you need the white knight for him, or can this guy stand on his own 2 feet?
Okay, you're not going to do it, are you? So
can this guy handle his own, or do you need to jump in and save him?
I don't know, Jeremy. I think your idea of a scientific proof and his might be different. So as a contextual.
Yeah, and we know your guys' proof. Your guys' proof is it doesn't prove anything.
Okay, so do I take it you're just being obstructive with me, or do I take it you can't come up with one? Which would you want me to go away thinking?
Boiling water, 100% proven. Water boils with heat. Water can boil heat. Heat can boil water, 100%.
Okay.
What's your logical?
Water can't boil heat.
Heat can boil water.
Statement doesn't even make sense.
Heat can boil water. No, I misspoke, dude. I misspoke. I know. Can you forgive me? Can you forgive me for misspeaking or no?
Yeah, don't pick him up on the misspeaks. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous.
So water is boiled by the heat. It's a cause and effect relationship. It's not a provable something. Okay, it's not a proof of something. Like if you're drinking a glass of water, you are not proving that you drink water. It's obvious. Okay. So when the people say, "Oh, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius," so that's a claim. Okay. So but the 100 degrees Celsius is what? So it's how we give what 100 degrees is. So it's the definition of degrees. Like 100 degrees would be when it's a boiling point of water.
Why are you bringing up 100 degrees and shit, bro? You're gonna fuck my whole point up because they're about to rip into this.
Okay, so your point is heat boils water. Yeah, so it's a cause and effect relationship. It's not a proof of something.
The point is, it can be proven using science. That's the answer to Paz's question. Now the whole mainstream thinks you can't prove anything using science. That you can't know anything 100%. And if you don't know 100%, newsflash, you don't know.
Okay, so what's your statement that water boils with heat? Is it your statement?
Yes, you can use science to prove heat can boil water. Yeah.
Heat can boil water. So
yes, heat can boil water. Yes, heat can boil water.
100%. Yeah. So where is the science?
Where is the science? You can do that shit yourself. Go to your kitchen. Go to your kitchen. Get a pot of water. Put it on the heat and see it boil.
It's an observable fact. It's not a science. Science means giving some knowledge to, like, a certain kind of knowledge with some method. Okay, with applying by a method, then you're doing some experiments and you have 2 or 3 hypotheses. Okay, and then
you can follow the scientific method with this. It gives you knowledge.
Okay, can you put your if I give you a statement, if I give you
go ahead.
Yeah, so if I give you a statement, okay, my statement is, okay, when I am feeling thirst, if I drink water, my thirst will go away. Okay, so I give you that.
No, that's not true.
Why it's not true?
Because I've been thirsty, drink water, and still been thirsty.
Oh my!
You've never had that? You drink some water and you're still thirsty?
Eventually, we will feel the effect, right? We will not just feel thirsty all the day and we will just drink water continuously. We can't do that.
You might be. Obviously, you're not a weed smoker.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm talking
The
about the
boiling water
science.
thing's rock solid, though.
Yeah, I was just giving you.
There's things you
The drinking water thing is not is flimsy. That was going to be your provable science.
no
Okay,
one that
okay,
would be subjective.
okay.
Would
So
be
I'll change my.
subjective, not objective.
Okay, so I
Science
can see.
has that clause in it for a very specific reason. That way, it's always open to accept new information. You can quote unquote prove something. All you're really doing is you're proving the other thing's not right. And if
Yeah, but like.
time comes when a new observation comes in, or maybe a new technology or a new way to measure or observe, and you can bring in new information, it could completely change the conclusion.
Yeah, I know that's
open for that, right? Because it's self-correcting. That's why when you say, well, this can't prove anything 100%. That's why.
Yeah, that's what you guys think. However, let me know when you overturn the boiling water thing. You're not gonna. You never will because it's 100% proven
That's a
that heat
ridiculous
can
statement.
boil water.
But it's an obvious thing. Like for example, if I give you a statement that I drink water every day, or I drink water.
What
Okay.
is it with the water, dude? Drinking water?
No,
what? I'm gonna just
go
wait
with
till
things
this
that are
guy's done.
objective.
Me and you can pick this up when this guy's done.
You got to go with things that are objective, not subjective. True, no matter what, no matter who you are. Not instead of just one person's perspective on something. Because I can't even prove that you were thirsty.
Okay, I'm not talking about.
Oh, I know. Only you know that. That's subjective, not objective.
Okay, if I talk about that I drink water, it's a statement. Okay, so is it a science? I drink water, and I am drinking water from whole my life. I have a glass, and I drink water. So it's my statement. I drink water, and I can prove it by having a glass of water, drinking it in front of you. So is it a science? No, it's an obvious fact. In the same way, heat causes water to boil. If you give enough heat, then water will start boiling. So it's an
No,
obvious fact.
negative. It's science. The thing I'm talking about is science. I can run you through it, the scientific method with it. So I don't know why you're talking about drinking water and shit. This boiling water thing is science, and I can run you through the scientific method with it if you don't believe me.
Pressure can also boil water. Pressure.
Okay, I know.
Yes, water can make you not thirsty, and
Hold on, man. We're
heat
not
can
talking
boil
about being
water.
thirsty with water, dude. Hold on, man. Heat can boil water. I know other things can boil water. Heat's one of them. 100% proven with science.
Before science, people don't know that heat can cause water to boil.
Sorry, what was that?
Nobody who
If
knows
someone-
what science is would say that.
Hold on, man. I didn't hear what the guy said. Did you hear me ask him? Hey, I didn't hear what you said. You're tough to talk to, dude. You don't follow the convo at all, and I got to deal with this other guy with drinking water, man. This is tough, guys.
Jeremy, I'll ask you a quick question. With this, heat boils water. Okay, so let's assume that you see boiling water, and you haven't got a thermometer or a pressure gauge or anything like that. Like, how would you go about determining why the water is boiling? Hopefully, I'm phrasing it the right way. Sort of like, rather than sort of saying you're taking heat and boil, is that your objective? Like, so if you add heat to water, enough heat, it starts boiling. But what if you just saw boiling water? How would you go about that then? And you haven't got a thermometer.
If I just saw boiling water,
yeah,
I would just say, "Oh, the water's boiling." Okay, now what?
So would that not like I mean, you still have to work out whether it's heat or pressure, right?
Yeah, the reason I know it's heat is because you do it. You follow the scientific method. The experimenter,
That's the control factor.
The experimenter will systematically. You listening, Rick? Can you hear me?
I got you, bro.
The reason why you know it's science and you know that it's 100% is because the experimenter will systematically manipulate the independent variable, which would be heat. I did the heat. You know what I'm saying? I didn't just run up and find some boiling water and be like, "Oh, I think this did it," and then say that's what it is. That's pseudoscience. That's what the Globers do. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Globers do. In my version of it, that's why I can know 100% because I'm doing it. I'm not just looking at something and then making up a story.
So then in the big picture of things, right? Like I fully acknowledge that. Hopefully these guys do too. It would seem that science is going beyond the bounds. Yeah. Science seems to be making claims and like getting lost within this sort of notion of subjectivity, provability, and all that. And it's making claims beyond which it can actually like evidentially prove. So that's the kind of the crux of it. Sort of science is actually this extension of what I don't even like this terminology of science, but
well, it's
like that which can be proved and that can actually be like sort of claimed. And what science is doing is just complete perversion of the notion of what proof is. which is when you get into the pseudoscience and where the level of like pseudoscience is. Like it's not just in Star Trek and Star Wars, right? And like, into our reality, creating false paradigms.
No, see, science. You have science to thank for literally every nice thing that about life.
I don't
All
thank
the things
inanimate
that human
objects,
beings
bro.
have worked
I
out.
don't thank inanimate objects. You can't thank an ideology or like you can't. You thank people.
This
I feel like you can
conversation
thank.
online right now. There's one reason,
at a time.
one reason, and one reason alone why we're having this conversation online right now on a computer or a phone or it's just a computer. But
you're
it's
best
because
off
of
not saying
science.
you're best off not saying thank. Just say attributed to.
Whatever. But
Well, then they can't really have a
science.
go at that, can they?
Do you know why you have a car to drive around? Because of science. You know why you have electricity in your home? Because of science.
It's funny you
know why
mentioned
you
the
have
car. Oh, God, you're still making. Well, don't make
everything.
a whole list of everything.
Name something that you don't have science to thank for.
Breathing.
Some comfort
The thing
in
with
your
the
life.
car. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
A comfort in your life.
Fresh air.
Are you done? Hold on, Rick. I wanted to get in real quick. Obviously, you heard me trying to get in.
I got you.
The thing with the car. We have science to thank for the car, but these guys can't even tell you if I drive that car around and run it crash into a tree. They can't tell you if it was the car moving or the tree moving. So I don't know how good your science is when you got.
Is, bro.
What's up?
I'm not sure what anybody in here thinks science is, but it doesn't take a brain surgeon to tell you that trees don't move.
Yeah,
like
I would
cars.
agree. I know, I would agree.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
your
cool.
own. That's
Glad
the
we agree
Glover.
on something.
Yeah, but all the Glover guys are in here saying, I understand you don't agree with them. I wouldn't either. Some of you guys don't, but some of you guys say, well, depends on what reference frame you're in. Could be the tree moving. Even though I try to explain to them, like, hey, don't we know how trees and cars work? There's no absolute motion though. So maybe you're not as up to par. Pazby, you want to like fill them in on all the Glover nonsense, or
Glover nonsense.
yeah, the Glover nonsense. Like the Glover nonsense, like we don't know if the car moved or the tree moved. That's the Glover nonsense I'm talking about. Would you? I mean, I thought you
I've
agreed.
never heard anybody even say anything even remotely close to we don't know if the tree moves or a car moves. Actually,
Yeah.
you're the only guy I've ever heard say that. So,
well, you need to hang out a little bit more because we've had very in-depth conversations about this. Baseball pitchers pitching a baseball, and you don't know if it's the ball moving towards the catcher moving towards the ball. You can't. There's no absolute motion, dude. Everything, it's all relative. Reference frames.
if I stand in one spot and throw a baseball at you, and you're standing in one spot, we're not sure if you're moving or the ball's moving.
I am sure that these guys aren't because there's no such thing as absolute motion.
Yeah. Okay.
I know
I'm
it's
not
pretty.
sure who
That's
these
the
guys are.
nonsense. That's the silly nonsense I've been fighting against for years. Shit like that.
Okay.
But I mean, science gave us the car. Sure, there's probably a lot of good stuff in there. I would say engineers gave it to us because they're the guys that take the science. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is,
right.
The point
Still
is,
science, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's how we know it proves things, right? Because scientists do something, and then now we know a new truth about reality. The engineers take that truth about reality and apply it, and we get cell phones, cars, shit like that.
Yeah.
So
we can say we've discerned some things for sure, but not.
Did science give you the building as well? Like, can we attribute science to the building or not? Sorry, the other way around. Can we attribute the building to science?
What building? What, like just buildings in general? What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's like what form? Like I'm trying to like
Yeah.
determine what level of technology we got to. At which point you want to start calling it science?
Called geometry. Yeah. So yes.
That was science. So before the term science was ever uttered, you want to invoke things that came before that term was ever invented.
Yeah, it would still be science. Yes. Whether they called it something
That's so
else.
weird.
It's called geometry. It's the study of shapes. Yes.
No, geometry is discrete. Science is a philosophy, an approach to nature and the world.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Science is not a philosophy.
It was started by a philosopher, lawyer guy. So yeah, it was.
Wonderful. But it's not a philosophy. No, it's not.
Dude,
It's objective reality.
Science is not objective reality.
I
agree with him. It's a way of thinking about reality.
You can have all kinds of philosophies, and still, if I kick you in the balls real hard, it's scientific fact. It's going to hurt.
Before the term science came along,
Hold on, that was you weren't talking to me just now. I don't know why you said my name twice. That wasn't me.
No, yeah, but you invoked something. I'm just kind of curious. Before you said that he's right and stuff, right? Before, and I just want to go back to this boiling water thing in science, this terminology of science. What was it called before they started? They knew that if they put a pot of water over the top of a fire, they would boil. So it wasn't called science then. What did they call it back then?
Okay.
Why is this new terminology all of a sudden 100 years ago popped up, and now we use that to defer to things like provable evidence in the world? All of a sudden, we needed a new term for that for some reason.
I don't know. This guy keeps mumbling through you. Were you asking me something, or I got distracted because now I got to mod this guy? Can you wait till he's done? I think he was also talking to me. Try to follow along with the convo too, please. Were you asking me something, Rick, or no?
Yeah, I'm asking you, man. You were referring to the fact that you agree with him on the terminology of science, and now I'm going back to the fact that they could boil, before the word science was used, they used maybe a different word, just reality. They could put hot water on a fire and boil the water. They knew that was provable. They didn't use the term science though. Now all of a sudden that's science. Why is it science now? It wasn't science back then. Now it's science. What is this new terminology? Why did we require a new terminology for that? Oh, because it's actually a philosophical approach to the world.
Hold on. I said I agreed with him because it gives you objective truths or facts or whatever he said. It's objective. Once you do this shit properly, it's over. It's a wrap. It's objective. About the philosophy thing, dude, we were putting heat on water a long time ago, but then people refined this way to figure out how to get the cause of the effect. Obviously we already knew the cause of that effect, but once we figured out how to make it foolproof and objective, then they put this whole method together. You get the hypothesis, the observed phenomena, the hypothesis, the experiment, the ways on how to do the experiment. That whole part has made it objective now.
Yeah. So what I'm invoking right then is, I've said this a couple of times before, but what Francis Bacon was doing, right, in his philosophical approach to to nature, was basically taking all of this notion of provability and then putting it into this thing that, he speaks about this in Nova Organa, in which he says basically we're changing our state of mind and the way that humanity approaches the world and nature. And he then sort of invoked this notion of tormenting nature in order for it to reveal its secrets. That's science. He why that person needed to say that thing, to me, says that there was a change in philosophical approach to the way that man actually sort of interacted with the world. At that point, they could exploit it, just like we think of capitalism, how it exploits nature, right? That was a philosophical instantiation 500 years ago. That term science came about. Everything else was provable before that. We were building buildings, miraculous buildings that we still can't redo now. We never called that science. All of a sudden, we need this new term popping out of somewhere. That it just kind of doesn't make sense to me that you would need a new term for doing stuff that you've been provably doing before, which implies that it's a philosophical approach. And that's why I think that it's the instantiation of the exploitation of nature. That all makes sense? It totally is, bro.
I get your interpretation, but no, you're just talking about a word. It's
the word that dominates our current conversation, and the zeitgeist at the moment is science and scientism. And this is why you think that you can make rats and give them diseases and test them and make life and exploit it and all that sort of stuff. That's the scientific method.
They used two male rats. They used two male rats and had made a baby, bro.
No way.
They did it with two female rats back in 2004, and then they just did it.
So science is playing with nature. It is really manipulating, mutating nature. That's the philosophical instantiation of what science fought along about 500 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Science can manipulate nature, but there's no such thing as scientism. That's not a thing. Science is definitely.
Well, that's what they'd have you believe, right? You know, that science is in, like, I mean, everyone has a religious bone inside of them, dude. Like, and it has to be scratched. It's just that a lot of people call it science and they think it's non-religious, but it has a set of doctrine by which it sort of examines the world and purports to behave within it. You wouldn't get a Buddhist doing some of the stuff that the scientists would do, man. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't get them like sort of pinning down rats and doing weird shit with beagles and you know, that whole sandfly thing with Fauci, like, or like the drugs that they're putting in people. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, science, like anything else, literally anything else, science can be exploited. Yeah, and used for terrible shit. Yeah.
How would you exploit it if you were going to exploit it?
Science?
Yeah, you were going to exploit some science. What do we do? Like, just skip a step? You could just skip a step, like, say you didn't do a natural observed phenomena, and then you did, and then you started going, and then you had 2 male rats have a baby. Would that be exploiting it?
That would depend.
So the instantiation of science and like that terminology of science was in Nova Organa. In that book, Francis Bacon states that the greatest of all the ideas that you could possibly have is that of which gives man control over the universe, over nature itself, dominion over the universe. That's his philosophical instantiation of what the scientific approach should be. So that is basically to put man in an exploitative capacity to better man's self.
That's what engineering does. That's what engineering is. Yeah.
It's transhumanism, though. Beyond like engineering, it's transhumanistic in its sort of instantiation. It wants to defeat mortality. It wants to defy the nature of like God, the creation, and all the rest of that. That you, like, things are born, they live, and they die, and they want to live forever through like immortality. They say they want to go to space, but we all know what that is.
Man can't.
That's why they were throwing nukes up into the sky. Like, they blew up nukes in the sky as soon as they claimed that they made nukes. They took them straight up into the sky and blew them up to see what would happen up in the sky when they blew up a nuke. And this is when they were sort of saying, "Oh shit, what if we set the atmosphere like a light and ignite it?" And they were like, "Oh, they were thinking about it. It's like, is that a possibility? Well, it might be. Oh, screw it, let's do it anyway."
All right. Once we blow it up, we'll know.
So you want to end the world then?
Shoot first, ask questions last.
Well, it's like destruction of the creation at that point.
No, first you got to make sure the gun works, and then shoot first and ask questions later.
And then they do nothing but scare and like peddle fear into humanity and anyone in the doctrine. They got these massive nuclear bombs that they could like end the entire existence of life on the so-called planet. That's what your science brings, man.
This is what a normal.
Wait. We could put a pretty good dent in the thing we call life on the surface of this planet. Yeah, we could probably kill. Yeah, probably upwards of 90 percentile of all the living organisms on the planet for sure. We could do that.
Free,
but the Earth
I'm gonna call you. All right, I'm gonna call you Free, or what do you want to be called?
Whatever, don't matter.
All right, Free. You agree on a lot of stuff. Science gives you objective facts. We know if the tree or the car was moving, right? You must be relatively new to this. Are you new, or?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Yeah, you just got in this arena. This is what you're what a normal person sounds like. All right, you should hear. Wait, stick around and listen to what some of these guys are saying.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit of it. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, see, there's okay. So the scientific method is the best thing that we have to discern, if you wanted to say, the natural world. I mean, the crazier part to me is instead of people going on about all this flat Earth stuff and things that are just, the real world is so much more fascinating, and the ways that we have discerned how to work a lot of this stuff out is amazing.
You know the real world.
The natural world is way more fascinating than all of the.
Where'd you learn about the real world?
Together
through man's books.
MTV.
The real world?
MTV.
MTV. Yeah.
Based on Mason TV. Yeah, nice. With the spaceman on the moon with the MTV flag. That guy.
It's outside. You don't have to. If you really want to go learn about the natural world, go look outside.
Right.
If you want to know which ways the stars rotate in the northern hemisphere, go look outside. It's not that hard, man. And the ways.
If I go look outside, am I going to see a globe? Am I going to see a globe if I look outside?
Well, no, because you're really, 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 really small, and the Earth is really, 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 really big.
Agreed.
Okay. Glad
What
we
does that
finally
mean of
agree
your
on
universe?
the universe. You can't even touch the universe. We don't even know shit about our own solar system. You know, a little bit.
Yeah, they
The
just found some
cosmic scale of
crazy
anything.
shit.
We don't know shit.
They just found some crazy shit on the edge of the solar system. It was like a circle or a spiral thing or something. They don't know what it is. Dude, you guys ever read those science articles? Like Google will pop up automatically.
Yeah,
Some
I
of
read
that
them.
shit is nuts.
Well, I mean, there's. I haven't. Talking about something like recent. Or you're just saying in general.
What? No, always. They're always nuts. Recently, before, tomorrow, they're always nuts.
Yeah,
There's all those
they found
science things.
like a micro miniature black hole that passed the solar system. You know, missed it by a couple of degrees or something, such that we couldn't feel it. We shouldn't worry about it, but oh shit, it was really close. Incoming black hole.
There's some fascinating ideas as far as the solar system, right? Like it's possible that we're actually a binary system, not a single star. Possible.
Here we go. You reckon there's two suns there?
Or
look, these are the top two. These are the top
it,
two things on Google. Look at
I'm
this
just saying
shit.
it's possible. Right? I'm just saying it's possible.
Oh, you wanted to be Star Wars? What's going on, Jeremy?
If it turned out that we just haven't been around as a species long enough to observe the other sun roll through every, say every 500,000 years or so, who knows? If the orbit is long enough and elliptical enough, it might take, who knows, an amount of time.
Mess up all the other planets?
That first one goes. Oh, you're not done. I thought you were done, dude.
Go ahead.
Are you done? Go ahead, finish your thing.
I was just gonna say
I'm trying to beat Rick to get in, so go ahead.
I'm not trying to beat anybody, man. If you guys want to talk, go ahead.
No, I was trying to
I was
beat
just
Rick.
gonna say that
We both thought you stopped, and I was trying to beat it. Get it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
most of the exoplanets that we've observed thus far, our solar system is the weirdo. We figured, if you only had our solar system to look at as, say, a model, well, you'd assume that most stars are probably going to be, one star with rocky planets closer in and the gaseous giants farther out. Whatever conditions that takes these things to form, well, it seems like the rocky planets take more heat closer to the sun and the gaseous. But what we find studying exoplanets now that we have the technology to do so, most other solar systems are binary stars, and most of them have the gaseous giants close to the stars and the rocky planets further out, which is kind of like the exact mirror opposite of our solar system. So it turns out our solar system is the weirdo, or at least it appears that way. We might be a binary star. Maybe we just haven't been,
You compound up all these weird occurrences, and you'll be a flat earther in no time. Jeremy, you want to hit it or?
I forgot what I was even going to say at this point. I'm good.
I thought you were going to give us the headlines, bro.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You want to know what's crazy? You know what's crazy about the binary star system thing is when they first invented the telescope, all the people that were using it were like complaining that it gives you headaches and stuff. And then one of the contemporaries of Galileo tested it, and he said, "This instrument, it works great on things below on Earth, and though it doesn't work as well in the heavens. In the sky, it deceives one, as some fixed stars are seen double." So I think that's a better explanation for why you think our solar system is unique than anything else. Is you guys are seeing things, man.
Well, it's because every star needs to be. Go, Jim.
Go ahead, man. I'm good.
Well, when you look up in the sky, man, like you always see two stars. This is the thing they commonly see. Is all the stars seem to be binary. They're like reflections of one another, right? Isn't it also that they're like a fractal pattern, and the second star behind them, the so-called binary, is just like a slightly smaller version of that fractal pattern?
Oh,
dude, like if a lot of the stars in the sky, right, like the majority of them are double binary stars, and then your moon is the same size as your sun, and then you've only got a pole star in the center in the north, and you got they claim there's sigma octantis in the sky on the south, but it's just not there. So you got this sort of symmetry that's occurring where everything's rotating around the central portion, like the moon and the sun being the same size, and you find yourself on that planet and all the like infinitesimal possibilities it could be like sort of you could find life in the so-called universe. That's crazy in and of itself.
The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you.
No, but once it starts making sense and you see the patterns, then you start asking the question, right? It's like, okay, well, Is this just like a consequence of like the entropy and the chaos that is proposed by the heliocentric model and the notion of the globe, or is it actually a little bit more kind of like down to earth? Actually, everything is centered around this place within your objective sort of reality, right? Like this is all we're claiming. There might be stuff beyond this that I don't know about.
The universe acts in a logical way, though, doesn't it?
You got the yeah. Well, I mean, there's a logical way. Yeah. The continental drip that you were mentioning the other day, Jeremy, where all the continents seem to sort of like droop out at the bottom for some reason, like towards the south. And that's a symmetry in and of itself. Everything's going into the center. Even the fact that was it seasons just because the Earth tilts away. Like it's not just going to heat up the entire like the whole. If you ever taken a ball and then shone a light at it, like it heats up that whole side of the surface. Yeah, a little bit more at the like pronounced edge, but not as much as what sort of the seasons propose. Not in that way. And then they say all that heat's radiated out to space. Like there's no conductivity there. Yeah, heat coming up from the bottom of the Earth. It's the same temperature as the sun down there, apparently. And then the sun beating down on the surface of it for 50% of the time. And then you want to say an insulated, like a non-conductive surface is just radiating that heat out. That's rather peculiar. Maybe I'm scattergunning a bit. Just trying to point out all the sort of the symmetry that's going on.
Yeah, I kind of had a question for the Glober. Where's the Glober? Where you at? What's up, man?
How you doing?
See, you were saying earlier, like science is not philosophy. Is that right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So is love just chemicals in your brain?
As far as we can tell, yes.
So if I said you were like a victim of materialistic, rationalistic programming, would I not be correct?
See how one thing has to do with the other, but
Well, you're a materialist, right? You're a materialist.
Am I a materialist?
Well, yeah. Like if you think love is just chemicals in your brain, how could I ever trust you?
I said as far as we could tell, but maybe,
Right, and you're relying. Oh, check it out. And just like the fucking universe, this is what blows my mind. Dark energy, and dark matter make up 97% collectively, right? Of like the universe. So
I
like
don't know the exact number, but a lot.
you can look it up.
A lot more. Yeah.
I'm pretty legit. I'm pretty good on that one. It's like 6% versus 90-something%. Dark energy, dark matter, right? So we know 3% of the visible universe. Like you said, as far as we could tell. So like, if we know 3% of this whole wild thing, where there's like chemicals in plants that we drink every morning that affect our day, like in this weird world that everything kind of, works together in this weird, wondrous way. If we know 3% of it, you're banking on love is just chemicals in your brain. Do you understand the limitation you've placed on yourself through materialism? Do you know what I'm saying? Like just as someone like, just as a thinker.
Well, hold on here. You said the known visible universe. Yeah, I'd say it's probably less than 3% of the known visible universe, but that's a lot different than things here on the Earth.
Is it? Well, I mean, like that's the thing is that you can rationalize infinite space, but you can't rationalize the complexity of like love just being chemicals in your brain.
Yeah, man,
and then you're gonna bank. And check it out. And then you're gonna bank your philosophy on what you think to be science, which admittedly only knows 3% of the fucking equation. That's wild to me. But you can have that. But I'm just saying it's pretty wild.
Hold on here. 3% of what equation?
Well, like we only like I said in the standard model, we only know 3% of the whole show. You know what I mean? We only like because dark matter and dark energy are undetected and all the rest of it. They make up 97% of this missing equation of Albert Einstein's fucking theory of relativity. So it necessitates that we only know 97. We're only know 3% of the equation. And like
Well,
with that, what's up?
About that particular equation, but you're talking about the entire known visible universe over.
Well, don't you think it correlates?
Well, sure, it can. Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? We don't even know like if love is just chemicals in our brain, and that's right in our fucking temple. So I mean, it's like right close to home. We don't know how that works, but we're gonna fucking bank on.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, we can only discern what we can discern, you know. So when you're trying
Right,
to
and
measure
based off of your understanding of the world as you've lived it up to this point, you're comfortable with love is just chemicals in your brain. You see what I'm saying? That's just weird. That's just weird to me because I think of it as something more ethereal. You know, like you know, something, like let me ask you a question. Like, do you look at it like a mother's love for her child is strictly a matter of, development of the species?
That's definitely a huge part of it. Yeah.
And
Is it
like
all of it?
is love? So I'm just curious. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know the answers, but like, I just find it interesting that we're, you know, I wonder more etherically about, you know, because when we get into science, you know what I mean. Emotion is a part of science. So like,
no, man. Actually, this is like the whole time I've been in this room. This conversation with you is like one that I'm interested in having. So, that's the wrong way to say that. So,
what's the question?
Well,
he said
what was the statement? He said I suck.
No,
no, you wouldn't be the first. You wouldn't be the first.
No, dude. That's not what I'm saying. No, man, it's so strange to me how everything
I thought you said you weren't interested in having this conversation with him. Maybe I misheard.
Yeah, same here.
No. That's not what I'm saying. You like this
Thing like epistemology and ontology doesn't matter, right?
Oh, these guys will take you down a black
that's not what I'm
hole.
saying at all. No, that's not. My gosh, man.
Bring them down.
That's a fascinating concept. You know, obviously we are a product of our ancestors. So, however, you know, that's
with all their fallibilities.
Your survival, the survival of your offspring, is literally the only reason why you're alive. Really, I mean,
unless you're a brain in a vat. Careful, there's some solipsis floating around in here. I'm not gonna name no names.
Yeah, no. So, no, you touched on really a fascinating. I suppose you could say, you know, if it's more ethereal, you know, or something more to it, possible.
Well,
it's definitely rooted. It's definitely rooted in biology.
The whole dark matter is pretty ephemeral as a notion that explains the sort of the turn of the galaxies at a far distance, right? Like that invocation of the 93% that we don't know. It's just a placeholder that allows for the explanation that that's all just other material stuff in the world. So you've got non-material justifying the material observation.
I mean, I could point out the problem. The problem with this, or go ahead. Do you want to respond to that?
I was just going to say, as far as the known visible universe goes, it's probably less than 1%.
So you were talking about exoplanets before, and you said that we know that there's exoplanets out there, but it's actually just an inference from a dip in the like the light of a star. It's not actually observing the exoplanet. And they say there's like some colors or something, and they say, this is all that jazz. Then they draw you a pretty picture, and that's what you think it is, but it's not that. Like they're just using a contraption to get a blip, and they're making inferences from the blip. They're not observing it directly, which is a lot of this instrumentation, so-called coming from the scientific method. It's just an inference from some sort of instrumentation.
Well, you are observing
Calvin dating we mentioned before, you know, various other ones. Sorry.
No, there's there's flaws in all of these things. Okay, because we're
intentional flaws to mislead you down the garden path of this heliocentric, materialistic worldview.
Heliocentric.
Yeah, like that's like kind of what is it? It's a cosmological interpretation of the world to say that the sun is in the center.
Well, no, that's heliocentric and
yeah, they upgraded. They upgraded to something else where when like there's no centrism whatsoever, you're just like a marble in space or something, spinning out in some sort of outskirt of it.
I think it's a barycentric model.
Heliocentric and
They're going to berry. We're berries now.
Berry centric, like a strawberry. Or pick
Yeah,
your
it's like
favorite berry.
they're not revolving. The sun and everything is even revolving around a point, so they're not technically heliocentric. They're like barycentric.
Geocentric and heliocentric. One idea was that, for a long time, it's thought that everything revolves around the Earth.
Because that's what we observe, right?
When it comes
around the sun.
When it comes to the universe, they actually say there is no center. Ironically, with all the centric business.
Well, hold on. What's your okay? So when you say the universe, it's hard to pinpoint the center of the universe.
Doesn't
So,
the
but if you said the
observable
galaxy, if you said the galaxy, like the Milky Way, our galaxy, it's made up of a vast number of stars. So, and then seeing outside, I mean, we can barely even see outside. I mean, we can see it, but trying to observe shit is.
Does the Milky Way need dark matter in order to justify its sort of spin speed or whatever it is? I'd say so, right?
No, it doesn't. They actually just did it. Well, is that for free? Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Seemingly, if matter, what we know as matter, was the only thing of the Milky Way, and seemingly it would be spinning too fast for everything to stay where it is. So yeah, the math would tell you that there's more there than we can see. There's more what we would know, or we would only know to call matter. It would seem to require more matter than what seems to be.
So you've got an observation in the sky that's moving too fast, right? But you've got to add matter into the equation. So you just come up with something like you've got to placeholder dark matter because you observe the spin, and the only way you can hold it that it's a material thing that you're observing spinning is to create non-material and call it dark matter, and that solves all the rest of the equations.
No,
that's the issue.
No, it's not that.
It's invoking like immaterial to explain.
It's you would have to the fact that shit doesn't fly out of the Milky Way galaxy is proof that there's something else there, more than the matter that we can see.
Is everything made of matter? Yeah, is everything made of matter? Everything like.
Well, see, now you're getting into huge, quote unquote unknowns. You don't know.
Yeah, but we can inductively reason it out, can't we? Can't we use inductive reasoning just like the scientific method? Sure, maybe we won't be able to deductively prove it, but we'll come up with a strong or weak argument, won't we?
Well, of course, but my point is that there's okay. So from the time that I was in school, we were taught then that in the ocean around the volcanic vents, it was thought that it would be devoid of life because the conditions there are rather extreme. So maybe some extremophobes, but we didn't know too much about extremophobes then either. But maybe some extreme bacteria or something could hang out, but nothing would prefer to be there, right? It would be void. Well, now we know, once we develop some better drones and submersibles that could actually, and we go down and check these volcanic vents out, what you find there is the exact opposite of what was predicted. Not only is it not void of life, but there's an entire ecosystem, and a bunch of unknown species that seemingly only hang out around volcanic vents. So, completely opposite of what you would think to find there.
You wouldn't think that though, man. There's just like claimed predictions. Well, you got nothing to think about it unless you've been there. Nor have you got ideas of thinking about life in other places beyond this one, because it's just, you're just using the ocean vents to then claim things in the sky at that point.
No, dude, I'm not using the ocean vents to claim anything in the sky. I'm just pointing out that when I was a kid, that's what was thought because no one had been down there to check.
That's actually kind of the whole trick of this conversation and this topic in general is like what we were taught and told and to think
but the difference is
kids,
it's not a big old grandiose global conspiracy about this, that, or the other thing. It's just because we hadn't been there to observe. So now that we've been there, we find the exact opposite of what was predicted. And now we know that. So now, okay, scratch that idea. Turns out there's an entire ecosystem there and a whole slew of organisms that were unknown to science. So now we've documented all those organisms and classified them in their proper line of species, and boom, there we go. Now we know.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is the science right now has to be wrong in order to advance it, right? Like you're
holy shit.
Right, that's got to be the case.
Not what I'm
that's
saying.
Got to be that's got to be the case for it to advance, right? It has to be wrong.
Well, it's definitely no. Okay, so if you only have a limited number of observations or facts to come to some type of a hypothesis, right? The hypothesis with the volcanic vents and critters, hanging out around them was, well, it was thought that those conditions are too extreme for anything to want to hang out there. Okay, well, we hadn't been down there to really check, but it seems to make sense, right? And from everything that we can discern, it seems to make sense. Until we developed technology to actually go check. Then we found the exact opposite, so that hypothesis turned out to be completely bass-backwards. It's the exact opposite. Oh, okay, well, look at that. Huh, okay. Write that shit down. And let's document a whole bunch of new species that we didn't know about before because, well, nobody ever really got down there to check out around the vents. So now it's known that it was thought to be too extreme, but turns out those critters are only found around those volcanic vents. So, yeah, it's extreme in the general sense of things, like normal lobsters and crabs and things wouldn't hang out there, but turns out there's an entire little line of crustaceans that only hang out there.
And would you say we prove that without a doubt, like 100%? It's absolutely true.
It's just been corrected, is all I'm trying to say. So just in my lifetime, it's gone from thought to be void of life to teeming with life. Whoops.
So we went from not knowing to not knowing to absolute certainty, right? We have absolute certainty.
Well, I guess you could put it that way, but yeah, we just know that there's life there now.
Yeah. So you believe that there are absolutes, right?
But you couldn't fault the guy who said, well, here's my hypothesis, because as far as we know about life, generally life forms don't like hanging out in extreme conditions. And that seemed to be plausible for what we, confirmed at the time. So it would be reasonable. It would be a reasonable hypothesis. Then, turns out, truth is stranger than fiction. So,
it's flat.
Yeah, cool.
That's the truth of it.
Now that we know that, we don't still go, it's too extreme. No, we know that it is pretty extreme, generally speaking, but turns out there's a whole ecosystem of things that have, evolved to like that spot.
So yeah, you would say science proves things, right?
What's that?
Yeah, we went through this earlier. He thinks that, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So how does science prove that?
How do you think science proves things 100%?
That's okay. That's an extreme, like.
I thought you agreed to that earlier.
Science is left open-ended. So when new information comes in, just like the volcanic vent hypothesis, right? New information came in. There was no reason to think otherwise before that, because.
So you're a solipsist, is what you're saying, right?
That's not actual science, though. That's the problem. That'd be pseudoscience. Because pseudoscience starts with observation.
Right.
Anyways, I'm glad we clarified that, because I thought he said that you get objective truths from science. So my bad.
Okay, I can. I'll prove to you that what your position right now is going to reduce to solipsism. You ready? Okay, what is the scientific study or theory that has been performed to prove the external world exists outside of your mind?
Gregory's here?
All you guys exist, right? Or are you guys all just figments of my imagination?
Well, then what is grounding your sense perception to make you believe that your senses are being accurate right now?
Gregory, your voice changed.
What's that?
Sounds like Gregory.
NASA Shell's got some sort of play. No, NASA.
Not Gregory?
Not Gregory.
Oh.
Thanks for interjecting, though.
It sounds like one of his silly arguments, though.
Oh, that's what you were looking for, was it?
Epistemology and ontology, because one person speaks of that, and therefore, come on, man.
Yeah, it's not a good start to the day, Pate.
Experienced a couple of people who literally think when they die, everything else ceases to exist.
Well, have you ever heard the phrase quantum immortality?
Yes. How that necessarily works, it's possible. I completely accept the wide range of possibilities, but
so it could be flat.
Well,
because you could be lied to.
It could be, but pretty sure.
You got the Big Bang Theory, which came from a Catholic church. That's what you're paying
Big Bang
homage
Theory
to.
definitely didn't come from the Catholic Church.
Yeah, his name is George Lemaitre. Yeah, you should look it up.
Just because someone's Catholic doesn't mean something came from the Catholic Church.
Oh.
Literally came. Do you know? Actually, do you know that the Catholics The people that believe in God are the only ones that can actually make the claim that the external world exists outside of the mind, because they have something that grounds all reality, right? And that
Which
would
is
be
what?
God, right? That would be God, the ultimate non-contingent source for all intelligibility. So without that, you couldn't have uniformity of nature. You couldn't have the laws of logic. You couldn't have epistemology. You couldn't even put forward a
How do you
reason
know
for
that?
knowledge exist. You could go, because I can test it right now. You ready? What makes knowledge? What makes knowledge possible in your worldview?
Nothing.
What makes knowledge possible in my worldview? Same thing it makes it, whether it was my worldview or not, human experience.
Okay, so if knowledge comes simply just from human experience, we would experience or observe that somewhere. Yet that's not the case, right? Because it can't come from a contingent being, because knowledge existed before human experience. As you stated earlier, the universe has acted in a logical manner, right? And it probably acted in a logical manner before humans got here. And in order for the laws of logic to exist, they're mind dependent, right?
Human logic? There's a big difference
Logic,
between how
period.
the universe
What do you mean
works.
human logic?
Human
You think the
logic.
law of identity is
The
human
idea of
logic?
logic.
No, I'm talking about the 3 laws of logic, like the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of excluded middle. Do you believe those are objective?
Generally speaking, yes. But
What do you mean
when you're talking,
generally?
when you're talking about the universe, man, we don't know. We know precisely dick about the universe.
So
We have
you're
our
saying
tiny
that
amount of information that we can observe here on Earth. We can.
how would you come to that conclusion if logic wasn't universal and objective?
If it turned out that humans were the only ones out there, which would be an incredible fucking waste of space, but then I guess it would only be human logic, wouldn't it?
No, I
Because
don't even claim that it's human logic. Why would you claim it's human logic? Are you saying there's things out there contradicting themselves?
So the terminology of logic, like colloquially speaking, like just the way that people use it, it's the way you're inferring it, I think, freedom, like to think logically, quote unquote, like more formal logic is what Torah's invoking. Like, yeah.
Trying to bend the universe to make sense to you is never going to work.
No,
Other
I
people are
don't.
trying to bend
Because
your
unimaginable
interpretation of the
laws.
universe. Other people are trying to bend your interpretation of the universe. That's the whole game.
I'm not trying to make it make sense. I'm just stating a fact here, that the laws of logic are universal and objective. If you have an argument against that, I'd love to hear it, because I don't think it's possible to make an argument against the laws of logic, because you're going to need to use the laws of logic to make the argument. Now the question is where do the laws of logic exist? If everything is material, where are they?
Can you prove that the laws of logic exist outside of your head?
Yeah, because they existed before I was here.
How do you know that they exist at all, let alone outside of your head?
Well, because
You
it
can't just say
depends
the
on
thing
how
inside my
it
head has
all.
existed before my head, right? You need to
Yeah,
show
in
that
your
they
world,
exist outside of your head.
in your worldview, that would be the case. But in my worldview of the revelatory God, He's revealed that to us in such a way that we can know and we can trust our senses.
Can you show that He isn't also inside your head? Because that's the claim you're trying to disprove, right? That He's just inside your head.
It's also in the scripture, in a book outside of my head.
That it's in the scripture doesn't mean it's not inside your head.
Excuse
Can
me,
you
do
show
you
that
not
God
have
exists?
access? Do you not have access to a Bible?
The question, you were saying, how do you know the laws of logic exist outside of a head? And the obvious challenge
I
to
said
that
outside of
is
my head.
how.
I don't agree that they exist outside of a head, because I'm invoking right now the mind of God has to exist for the laws of logic to exist. So yes, I agree that laws of logic have to exist in a mind.
Can you prove that they exist outside of your mind is the direct question I'm asking. Yes or no is the answer.
Can I prove they exist outside of my mind?
Yes.
Yes, because they were here before my mind got here. So I can't prove it in the way that you're looking for. Like if you ask, is there crackers in my pantry? It's not going to be the same kind of proof when you're talking about something transcendental like this. I'm going to have to use an inductive argument, right? So
Show us the
therefore,
inductive argument.
since the universe acted in a logical way before I arrived here, The laws of logic are not are not only in my mind, as I am a contingent being.
What makes you think
I
the
think I
universe
might get
was
it.
acting logically before you got here?
So
Or
you're
that it's
saying the
acting
universe
logically
acts logically, and that must be because there are laws of logic, therefore they predate my existence,
No,
therefore
no,
they
no.
can't be.
The universe acted in a logical manner for us to have this present moment and to be able to use the inductive reasoning process that you're asking me to use.
Sure.
The
How
only
do you
way
know
we could have
that?
got to that moment is if the universe acted in a logical way before.
But how do you know these laws of logic? Like you're treating it like the laws themselves, the law of non-contradiction, the law of identity, these kind of things somehow summon logic to be that way, like the laws make logic. But I think logic just is, and the laws describe it. And hence,
I
you
agree.
have not proven that the
I
laws of
agree.
logic exist outside your head. The laws of logic, I think, are describing reality. And the challenge that you have in front of you is, can you show they exist outside of your head? And your answer was, but they predate me. No, logic predates you. But the laws of logic exist within the confines of your mind, and you cannot show me they exist elsewhere.
Okay, you just proved it. You just said the logic is just, it is what it is. Now, is logic mind dependent or not?
No, logic is not mind dependent. Logic happens whether a mind is there or not. A
Well,
rod
then
will
how
impart
can,
a certain
so
amount of force when falling
so the
outside of a mind.
so where is it then? Where is it? If there's
What do you
no
mean, where
human
is it?
mind, where is the logic?
What do you mean?
It's just the way
Logic
the
is just
universe
reality.
operates.
It's just
Because
reality.
what you're saying is there are laws in existence in reality that
They're the
man
laws.
didn't have to make. Yeah, they are laws, bro. The law of identity, I don't care how you describe it, it
That's in the mind of a
existed
man.
before. Listen, let me break it down for you in a simpler manner. Before Newton came up with the law of gravity and watched the apple fall, did gravity exist beforehand?
Yeah, he was describing.
Okay.
He was describing about. Let me answer your question, please.
No,
He
that's
was
it. I don't need
describing
it. That was
reality
a
as.
quick yes
You
or
asked
no.
me a direct question. It's going to be a short answer, but let me answer. Yes, Newton described reality as he saw it unfolding in front of him. He tried to give the best description he could, and he called that thing a law. And because nobody's disproven it since, we call it a law. Yes, it was a human
Okay.
describing reality.
So do you agree that all laws need lawmakers?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So before it was called a law, was it a law?
No.
Okay. How are you deciding that? So gravity
Because the
did
law,
not work in the way that it did.
You ask me a question. When you ask me a question, you need to pause to hear the answer.
Because I expanded on the question, bro.
Okay, sorry, but go again. Ask the whole question again.
Dude, you're so frustrating to talk to. I barely can
Does the law require a lawmaker? Was the previous question. What's our new
Yes.
question?
Yeah. Does laws require a lawmaker? Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Okay. Thank you.
Laws is a
So
human
before the
lawmaker
law was
describing reality.
before man made the law, that law existed.
No, well, we just said it requires a lawmaker. How did it exist before a lawmaker and require a lawmaker? That's just a logical. That's a violation of the laws of logic.
Well,
That's not how you do
because
logic. That's the opposite part.
these laws are obviously held in a non-contingent mind, not in
How did you
contingent minds.
decide
Just
that? You
because
can't
we
even
get,
show me
dude,
laws
you're
of
interrupting
mind.
so much, bro. I can't even get a sentence out.
Sorry,
I'm not
how do
going
you
to
know
talk
that?
with you if you're going to act like this, bro. Act like
Yeah,
an
let's all
adult
go
and
one
go
at a
one at
time.
a time.
One at a time, please, guys.
Yeah, go for it. I'm sorry for that.
Right. Yeah, riding on eggshells. It's very simple. The law existed before man named the law. Now, you could have come up with different words to describe this law however you wanted. I don't care what you're saying. Oh, Newton created the law of gravity. No, he didn't. The law of gravity existed before Newton. Everyone was stuck to the ground before Newton. Therefore, there was already a law which requires a lawmaker, which induces that there is an ultimate non-contingent source or a mind that is withholding all of this information to make the universe act in the way that it is.
Yeah, so that's to me is just begging the question. It's presuming a creator already. It doesn't fit with my description where I said these things just happen around us, reality just happens, and human says, I think this is a rule. And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong. And if they're right to the point that it has never been convincingly disproven, we call it a law. And you're then agreeing with that, saying a law requires a lawmaker, and then you're saying, but the law existed before any human was there. I don't think you can show that. If you can show that that's true, or you disagree with my definition. Do you disagree with my definition that reality just happens, a human describes it, and if we fail to break that rule that human sets, we call it a law. Quite often name it after the person that first coined it.
Yeah, define reality.
Oh, that which is true. The physical world that surrounds us, everything, the universe, I don't know, a bunch of different words.
The physical world that surrounds us, so you're not a part of reality?
Fine, yeah, I'll include myself in it. I don't expect it to be an all-encompassing.
So reality is everything? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, I think that reality is a good word that would describe
okay. And you think
everything
that
that's true.
reality Do you think that reality can account for itself?
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Yeah, because you don't know what ontology is.
It just doesn't make sense as a question. We're trying to say, does a law
Yeah,
require a
because you're
lawmaker?
trying to take the whole parts, all of it, and then say all of it, the whole thing accounts for itself. So reality, has it existed eternally into the past?
I don't know.
Who makes the lawmaker?
Exactly.
Anybody
Who decides that the lawmaker is a lawmaker? Why can there only be one lawmaker?
I
Why does the
already
creator of all
gave you
of the
the
universe have to
definition.
also be
I
the
already gave
lawmaker?
you the definition of God. I gave it to you as ultimate non-contingent source for intelligibility. Ultimate means eternal, so
only
there
if
would
you
be no
define it that
creator
way.
of that.
But it's just you define it into, this is the standard
No,
pre-sub
that's
thing,
an
right? This is
inductive
just standard
argument.
pre-sub.
What
And
was
you
No,
that?
it's
just
Riding on
assume it
eggshells?
into
I
existence.
swear you were trying to say something there.
Guys,
That
please go
almost
one at a
made
time.
sense.
Come on, one at a time, guys. Please be concise too. Be concise. If you ask a question, just let the question go. You know what I'm saying? Don't keep going after that way the person because they're itching to respond. Just go one at a time.
Yeah. Sorry. I think what you're doing is assuming it into existence. You're saying, I've decided that laws predate humans describing the laws, despite the fact we call it Newton's law, right? So we know the name of the first human that called it that. And you're saying, well, that law must have existed. You need to argue with the point that I'm citing. It's just reality. And reality isn't laws. Reality just is. And when it wasn't because that wasn't reality. Like, I don't know. I can't say.
You don't have a definition of reality, bro.
Just let me finish, if that's okay.
You could
I'm just
keep
saying,
being vague with your reality word, but it's not going to get you anywhere.
I don't think it's vague. I think I'm being quite clear. I'm just saying you're assuming
You're not
the
being
lawmaker.
clear, bro. You're being vague.
Just let him finish his point. You keep changing how he's going to respond to you, Torah. Come on.
Well, I
I just
already
say you're
addressed the
assuming the
reality
lawmaker.
question, and he can't. Reality can't account for itself. So why is he constantly using this word reality as if it's like some entity that it can account for things?
But ducks can't account for themselves, but they still exist. Cars can't account for themselves, and they still exist. You're just squawking some new word when we're clearly having a discussion about this
You just talked
lawmaker
about
thing.
particulars that are inside of reality. Are you saying
you're losing
reality
on
is
this point. You're
accounting
trying
for
to
the
switch to another
particulars
thing.
now? Is that what you're saying? Reality is accounting for the particulars.
Particulars? I don't get what that is, man. What are the particulars?
Yeah, you don't understand ontology. I already
Are the
explained it
particulars
to
in the
you.
room with
Can
us
you
right now?
define ontology for me?
No, I don't know what that means. I want to just talk about the lawmaker thing.
Well, then we're not going to be able to have a conversation, and you're not going to
Evidently.
understand my logic if you don't know what ontology is.
It's not logical. That's what I'm trying to show you. It's just made up nonsense that you've heard from Darth Dawkins, and you go, "Oh, it doesn't seem like
That's
anybody can
not
debunk
correct,
him."
sir. That's not correct,
But
sir.
it is. It just he's using "sir." That's what he says. Excuse me, sir, sir, and then he mutes somebody. Who's who QE was trained off. We all know Darth
Yeah,
Dawkins.
you have obviously been destroyed in this argument because now you have resulted to ad hominem. That's it. That's
It's
all
not
you
ad
have.
hominem. I'm
You don't
pointing out that
actually
you're
have an
copying
argument
somebody
because you don't even know
argument
what the
and you're
word
doing it quickly.
ontology, dude.
Oh, I don't know the word ontology. Can we get to the idea of whether a lawmaker predated it or reality is described by laws and named after the person who first does them, and therefore you can't show that they predate human minds? And if they don't predate human minds, then you do not need a non-contingent, all-encompassing mind for us to exist within. It could just be reality. You know that this fundamentally destroys your thing, which is why you're trying to get off of this point about ontology and particulars.
Okay, let me explain to you. Ontology is a branch of philosophy that studies the nature of existence and being with the relationships between concepts within a domain. Okay, so when you understand ontology, you cannot make the argument that reality is holding the laws of nature. That doesn't make any sense because the laws of nature would be considered a part of reality. So reality can't account for itself. There must be something that is non-contingent because reality is contingent unless you're stating that reality has an infinite past. And if that infinite past is physical, you cannot have an infinite amount of physical reactions and get to the present moment. It's impossible.
No, that's not true. That's not true. A finite number exists within an infinite set. That's just ridiculous. You can have the past disappear infinitely in both directions and still be on a particular day of a particular week. The last one you said is false. It's a common precept one. But the other ones I didn't follow. But absolutely, if there are infinite moments before this one can still exist. It's one of the bizarre things that is a provable, testable thing in mathematics that relates to infinities, which is, can you have infinities that are bigger than one another or smaller than one another and contained within one another? And you can have an infinite number of days preceding this one and still be on a particular day at a time at a day of the week. That's just mathematically false, but it's a core tenet of this presuppositional nonsense where all you're doing. I know I'm going to call it out now. I'm going to call it out now.
You're spurting, bro.
You're shouting over me.
You gotta be concise, dude. You gotta
I'll be concise.
shorten this up
They
a
are
little bit.
assuming God
You
into
repeated
existence.
yourself three times already, right?
Guys, hold on a second, man. Hold on. Make a point and then pass the mic. Ask a question, pass the mic. Just you're going on and on, dude. You gotta shorten this up, man. So I'm getting frustrated. I can't even imagine how Torah feels right now.
Fine.
I think the ducks can
assuming
account
God
for
into
themselves.
existence. That's all.
This dude, okay, first of all, I don't care if you can mathematically configure an infinite timeline and then put points A and points B on that. You would also need the non-contingent ultimate source for all intelligibility to give you point A, a starting point. So you just lost in your own argument right there. But if you are going to assume that the past is physical and there was actions and reactions going on in the past, and that has been going on for an infinite amount of time, then you cannot get to a present moment. And it's simply explained to you in this way. If I give you a candy bar after an infinite amount of time, when do you get that candy bar?
Yeah, that's not analogous though. That's the beginning and the end of infinity. Whereas we're talking about discrete steps
No such
within
thing as
infinity.
beginning or end of
You can't
infinity.
ask me a question. Take that long to ask me a question and then talk over me again, Tora. I don't think that infinite regression into the past is necessarily a thing. I don't know about that. If you want my personal answer, I don't know. What I'm saying to you is you're mathematically wrong. That yes, if you said we're starting today and I'm going to give you a lollipop in an infinite time, I will never get the lollipop. But that doesn't mean within an infinite set, right? So full infinity. I'm on Tuesday this week and I give it to you on Tuesday next week. That can happen within the set of infinity because they don't need, those 2 points don't need to be infinitely far apart. They can be and still have infinities outside of that. But that's not necessary now. You can have now and next week. That isn't the same as saying there is an infinity between now and next week.
Okay, I already addressed this at the very beginning of what I said. I think you missed it. In order to have point A and point B on an infinite timeline, you're invoking God again. Because what started point A, please?
But that's just presuming God into existence. You're just going, if I've already guessed there's God, and if we discuss the idea of infinity, then I've decided that infinity or that point A or that point B or that Tuesday is there because of God. You can't prove it wrong. It's fine. If that's how you do your reasoning, it's not logical though.
Okay, hold on. So you're saying point A came from nothing? Are you saying point A came from nothing?
Yeah, just like God did.
God's always existed. He's eternal.
Well, he came from nothing
so
then.
Point
well,
A,
he came from nothing then.
No,
Something can't
no.
always exist, can it?
Yes, God.
Okay.
Only God.
We came from nothing then.
No, he didn't come from nothing.
Well, where'd he come
always
from?
existed. He's ultimate. His existence is eternal. Therefore, the reason you have to make this argument is to account for knowledge, laws of logic, and uniformity of nature. You guys do not have an account for these things. You cannot account for them. So it's much easier to just refer to God. I'm not using it in my science. I don't need to use it in science. Just like we demonstrated before, all these Catholics were scientific and they came to all these conclusions about the earth that you guys now worship. So without this understanding of God, you're not going to have an ultimate non-contingent source for intelligibility. Therefore, you can't substantiate if the external world exists outside of your mind or not.
Okay, but you can't. Let me ask you a question real quick. Yeah, so do you believe that if I deny or I don't agree with that, I somehow don't have logic to make up, to understand it? Hold on, I'm not done.
No,
Hold on, I'm not done with let me finish the question. Do you believe that I'm not able to logic out a reason like you are because you believe that thing and believing that thing gives you that ability? Because that's the way you're making the argument.
No, not at all. I believe you fundamentally understand this truth as well, but there are actual implications to this truth, so you suppress this truth because you do not want this truth to be true because it has actual behavioral implication.
Okay, so the better argument you should be making is that if it were to be true, we would not have the ability to have logic. So that's the way I would word it in the future for you, so it doesn't sound like you're saying we don't understand.
Your Demon, your interpretation of it, I think, is wrong. I think the precept argument is, in fact, not that you don't have logic because you don't believe in this. It is the only reason you have the ability to reason about whether there's an existence of God is because of the existence of God, because you're using the rules of logic defined by Him.
Guys,
I think that's the argument.
Every time hold on, man, please don't clip people. The last 4 people that have talked, they have all gotten clipped. Even some of the people have complained about getting clipped and then went on to clip people themselves. So please, let's just let everyone finish their thing. I know everyone wants to get in. Just let everyone finish their whole statement, please. Be concise.
Okay, riding on eggshells. I agree with you. I believe that is the argument, but the way Toro was saying it is it sounded like he was saying you can't understand this because you don't believe this, when he actually meant what we both agree with.
Yeah,
that's not what I was saying. I think that was.
Sorry, go on ahead, Dora.
That was a misinterpretation of the argument. Then I specifically asked the question at the very beginning: what makes knowledge possible? I didn't say you don't have knowledge.
I don't know if knowledge is possible. I'm not sure it exists outside of a mind, same as laws.
How do you know that if you don't know?
I don't.
Okay. Then how did you? Yeah. Okay. There you go. So I just like to show that freedom, not a crime. That I've demonstrated what I said I would demonstrate from the beginning. That people in your worldview would have to make this jump to solipsism, that they don't know if knowledge exists. And I don't even know how anyone could make that claim, because if knowledge doesn't exist, how could you not know something? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense.
What do you mean? If knowledge doesn't exist, how could you not know something? Like, all you could do, if you could do anything, it must be not know, because know doesn't exist, right? So Like laws of logic and laws of identity say that knowing is a full set and not knowing is everything but that set. So all you could do is not know. If no doesn't exist, right? So
Do you
it's just not
know
logical.
that you don't know? Do you
No.
know that you don't know?
No.
No, but you do.